You're a moron.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, July 11th, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 1154.
This is No Agenda.
Fueling up the Lolita Express and broadcasting live from the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where we're celebrating International Population Day and the death of Alexander Hamilton. One down, 7.7 billion to go. I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
7.1 billion what? People?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
That's the population of the globe at the moment.
Oh, yes. So how do we celebrate Alexander Hamilton's death?
He was shot by Aaron Burr in a duel.
Yeah, and that's to be celebrated.
Well, it depends on what kind of monetarist you are.
Yes, exactly. Before we get into
supply side, maybe.
Before we get into everything today, I wanted to bring people's attention to a brand new series on Showtime, which represents a lot of what we discuss here in the show. And I don't know if you've seen this. It is The Loudest Voice. It is the story of Fox News and Roger Ailes. Roger Ailes played by Russell Crowe.
Yes, who also looks like him with the makeup.
Yeah, so you've seen it?
No, I've seen the trailers.
Oh, my God. Oh, John, it's basically, you want to understand what No Agenda talks about? Watch this show. It is fantastic.
Why?
Well, I'll give you an example. When we talk about what's going on in television, we joke about the control room. We know how that works, how the interruptions work, how the advertising works, the commercials, what the news readers do, and what they're there for and what their role is.
So you're saying it's the No Agenda show insofar as the way we do behind the scenes.
Yes, the behind the scenes. Well, whenever we deconstruct media, we know exactly how it works.
Yeah.
And I've received several emails from people who also have seen it and said, now I get it. For an example, this is before Fox News goes on air. They're rehearsing. And Roger Ailes has come up with this fantastic idea for this new news station, which I'll have a clip of Russell, talking about in a moment. And so he's in the control room. He's watching the set. And again, these are just rehearsals, so they're not live on air yet. Here's a clip.
All right, let's look at where we are. What's she wearing? What, is the Bulldog Rodeo in town or something? Why is she wearing pants? Why is she wearing pants? I like legs. Anybody else like legs? I like legs. What the fuck is that?
It's the feed. There's some sort of...
Halloween is orange. It's orange. It's not so difficult, Pete.
So, this is the beginning of the legs on TV that Roger Ailes brought us. And he was right, because he knew what the audience wanted, and that's how it all works. And it doesn't just have to be Fox.
It's always been that way. The funny thing is, everyone denies it, or they go, "Oh no," but in fact, I think it's the way they handle it. I mean, I think women don't mind showing off their legs, but they don't like to be told to show off their legs.
Oh no, of course not. And the guy.
But that's why Paul Luzon quit.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that. Ailes, of course, was also a creep, and he would have girls come in and audition and twirl around for me, and spin around, and I didn't pull that clip. But here's Russell Crowe talking about the brilliance of Roger Ailes on Colbert.
The 7 o'clock bulletin with Shep Smith is just the news. The rest of the time it's opinion, even though it's called Fox News.
Oh, I mean, I would grant that. I mean, I think Shep does a fine job. I think Brett Baer does a fine job. Chris Wallace does a fine job on the Sundays or on Fox. But I mean, when he was putting it together, one of the things that's sort of shocking the other character he's talking to in the first episode, is his willingness to make it look good, make it sound good, to make it something that people will turn on, regardless of what the message necessarily is, because some people have their back up against his willingness to turn it into entertainment.
Yeah, well, what he was saying, though, is that, people don't really want to be informed. They don't want all of the details. They just want to feel informed. They want to think at some point in time in their mind that
They've got that covered, so he was playing into that. But also, you've got to know that, Roger many, many times over the years said if he hadn't had seen a certain bias in media, then Fox News could have been the exact opposite, because he was looking for the open area of the market. Mm-hmm. And it was in his estimation that CNN, that MSNBC, CNBC, C-SPAN, ABC, NBC, CBS, The Times, The Post, everybody had a left-leaning bent. Mm-hmm. So to him, what was available was a conservative audience that was being underserved. Mm-hmm. And that proved to be very true, because now you have one single news network which dominates half of the available audience.
Right.
So it's purely a marketing
He
idea.
won, idiot.
Well, he's put Fox News into an incredible situation, hasn't he? I mean, that is a money-making machine. They make $2 billion a year profit. Mm-hmm. That's a hell of a thing when you think that news services began with the understanding that you would offer news as part of your broadcast, but you did it from a perspective of not needing or requiring a profit.
So now you understand why it works and why CNN and MSNBC have lower ratings than Fox, because they are fighting for the same audience. They're fighting amongst themselves. Fox is by themselves, just all alone, except for some minor
players. This has been obvious since pretty much everyone noticed Fox's dominance. And what surprises me is that nobody else has stepped up. Try to maybe temper it back, pull it back a little bit.
Yeah. There's a couple trying. One America News, I think, is trying. But they're trying. You said no one's trying. They're trying.
Well, I mean no one who with any kind of clout, high end.
No. The problem. I disagree. The problem with One America News is they're not showing legs. All they got is talking heads. That's one
America News
problems.
Is not on cable.
Yes, it's on my cable.
You get One America News on your cable?
I do.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's also Newsmax and what else?
Newsy.
Newsy, cheese, whatever that is.
Newsy. But, yeah, if you want ratings, you got to show legs. It's just how it works. I don't understand why people don't get it. And also, let's not be hypocritical. CNN tries. They just don't have good legs. Aaron Burnett. Love Aaron Burnett, or used to. She went kind of overboard, really odd. But, talking heads. Anyway, it's a great show. The Loudest Voice on Showtime. Something to watch. It really...
Is it a series? I thought it was just a movie.
No, it's a series. They've had 2 episodes so far.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea how long it's going to take. It seems like it would be a 7 or 8 parter, just from where they are in the story.
Well, it depends on how they get. They always slow down the narrative and keep it going forever.
Yeah, well, that's what you want to do if you got a hit show. Well, we'll see. Russell Crowe is fantastic, though. Really good. Yes.
Like the line is, what do we have, a lesbian convention where we
There's a dyke off in town. Yeah, sorry. It's just how it works. Anyway, so if you think we're a bunch of sexist pricks, we're just being television executives. That's how we deconstruct the business to an extent. All right. Well, I think we should start with the Epstein thing, because that's what everybody is interested in.
I don't know why, because I even mentioned in the newsletter that I thought the Epstein thing was a distraction of the week. And I have some, of course, now I have clips too. But, what do you got?
Well, you must have some back.
I have the Epstein report, the PBS kind of a rundown. You can run that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's start, first of all, with this Epstein case. His lawyers are saying that their client believed these girls were over 18 years old. And also, they are saying that this was not child trafficking because, in their words, there was no coercion and there was no violence. I want to ask you, you're also an attorney. Legally, what is child trafficking?
So under the federal law, there is no need to show force, fraud, or coercion when it comes to the issue of minors. Under the federal law, anyone who recruits, patronizes, solicits a minor under the age of 18 for the purposes of a commercial sex act can be found guilty of trafficking. A commercial sex act is actually really broadly defined under the federal law. It encompasses any sex act that's exchanged for anything of value. So under the facts of this case, as alleged, it could absolutely constitute a federal anti-trafficking case.
Right.
This is interesting because it tells you that if you pick up a streetwalker who's 17
and you fly her to a different state.
No, you don't have to fly her. You didn't hear that. If you pick up a streetwalker and pay her for sex, somehow you're a sex trafficker. You don't have to fly her anywhere. You don't have to even put her in your car. You can walk off with her.
Oh, you're just trafficking. Okay, yeah, technically you're trafficking. That makes sense.
Well, how are you trafficking? Is a streetwalker? This is the problem with prostitution in this country.
It's not on television. That's the problem with prostitution.
Well, there's that. But it sounds like a bunch of bullcrap if you ask me. Now, let's listen to the, I think I have the 3 clips, sex trafficking clips, which I want to get out of the way. That may be a repetition. No, I don't think so. Let's start with these. And here, these are the laws that are applying here. I have some kind of differing thoughts on Epstein now after hearing the Acosta talk about it in a segment which I believe was clipped out of the PBS NewsHour but played on the radio. Unfortunately, I didn't record it from the radio, thinking it was going to be on TV. It never was, where he made a lot of reasonable assumptions. But this, to me, this whole thing is just that let's find some other way to disturb and get Trump.
Yes, correct. I agree.
And nothing else. There's no other reason for it. But let's listen to sex trafficking clips. I got 3 of them. This is number 1.
Well, the one we just played was the PBS one. That was sex trafficking.
This is all PBS, but it's under sex trafficking, not under Epstein.
I understand, but I'm sorry. The clip I just played was sex trafficking one. It wasn't the Epstein report. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, you heard clip 1. Which was the one I thought. I just wondered why it started where it did. Well, we missed the overview.
Why don't I play it then? Want to play the overview? It's worth it.
I don't think it's yeah. Well, you can play the overview and then we'll get back to this.
Yeah, might as well.
Labor Secretary Alex Acosta is facing new demands to quit his post tonight over a plea deal he arranged with financier Jeffrey Epstein in 2008. Acosta was then a federal prosecutor in South Florida, and Epstein was accused of molesting teenage girls. The deal kept Epstein out of federal prison, but now federal prosecutors in New York have filed new charges. Today in the U.S. Senate, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer joined other top Democrats condemning Acosta.
I am calling on Secretary Acosta to resign. It is now impossible for anyone to have confidence in Secretary Acosta's ability to lead the Department of Labor. If he refuses to resign, President Trump should fire him.
Acosta himself called Epstein's alleged crimes horrific and said he welcomes the new charges. President Trump, in a meeting with the Emir of Qatar, promised to review the plea deal as he defended Acosta, whom he appointed to his cabinet.
He's been a really great Secretary of Labor. The rest of it we'll have to look at. We'll have to look at it very carefully. But you're talking about a long time ago. And again, it was a decision made, I think, not by him, but by a lot of people. So we're going to look at it very carefully.
Also today, Justice Department officials said Attorney General William Barr will stay out of reviewing the 2008 plea agreement. His former law firm represented Epstein during that period.
Actually, I think I have a clip of him talking about that. Yeah, here it is.
I'm recused from that matter because one of the law firms that represented Epstein long ago was a firm that I subsequently joined for a period of time.
All right, so he's recused, but I'm sure he's managing in the background. So I apologize for playing the clip out of order. So let's get back to sex trafficking. Then I have a couple things we should look at.
Well, let's start over then because it's only 51 seconds. Let's start with sex trafficking 1 so we get back to the groove.
Let's start, first of all, with this Epstein case. His lawyers are saying that their client believed these girls were over 18 years old. And also, they are saying that this was not child trafficking because, in their words, there was no coercion and there was no violence. I want to ask you, you're also an attorney. Legally, what is child trafficking?
So under the federal law, there is no need to show force, fraud, or coercion when it comes to the issue of minors. Under the federal law, anyone who recruits, patronizes, solicits a minor under the age of 18 for the purposes of a commercial sex act can be found guilty of trafficking. A commercial sex act is actually really broadly defined under the federal law. It encompasses any sex act that's exchanged for anything of value. So under the facts of this case as alleged, it could absolutely constitute a federal anti-trafficking case.
Okay, so now that I heard it again, does it have to be a minor for it to be trafficking in any case, or did she say at the end there it doesn't even have to be a minor?
No, for the purposes of the generality she states here, which is that if you run into a 17-year-old hooker, which is what I'm going to use as the example, and you just solicit her for sex,
right?
That's sex trafficking. I believe that if they're 18 or older, the rules for sex trafficking are different.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, that's a good rule.
But
that's a good rule.
I found it to be rather onerous because of the nature of open prostitution in certain areas. Or to open, in other words, streetwalkers we're talking about, or Vegas, let's say. Anyway, let's play Sex Trafficking 2 for more clarification.
In this case, we saw a man who his friends even joked about that he liked young girls. I'm wondering how much of this is in plain sight, the problem of child trafficking? How much of this is a cultural kind of ignorance or shrugging off of a serious problem?
What's unique about this case is the sheer amount of attention that it's getting, but it's not unique in the dynamics that are alleged. We know that men who are powerful, who have an enormous amount of privilege, exploit the vulnerabilities of young women and girls every day here and throughout the country. What's interesting about this case is that it's getting an unbelievable amount of attention, but from our work on the ground, there are individuals much like Jeffrey Epstein who are extraordinary, wealthy, and powerful businessmen. Many of them are actually white men who use that power and privilege to exploit vulnerable young women and girls.
Oh, it's just white men. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, by the way, if anyone wants to read something maybe a counter to this, you might want to read the book Pimp by Iceberg Slim, which we've actually promoted on the show before.
Okay.
So now all of a sudden we've taken a twist here and we have turned this into a white privilege situation, white guys, and not only that, but rich and privileged. So in other words, and I find, this to be, I would think, insulting to the working man. It's not as though sailors, the working class, the lower class.
They're all sailors are all also not all Johns.
Well, I'm just saying, just to say that all these people are eliminated from the argument because none of these people, none of the working class, none of the sailors, none of the lower classes ever get involved with prostitutes. It's always the rich, empowered. Of course. This is bullshit.
Yes, it is. I agree.
But okay, let's keep going in this direction and wrap it up with clip 3.
Marginalized young women, girls who were runaways, girls who had experienced unstable homes, maybe even girls from the foster care system. And that is consistent with what we see in the young women that we work with here locally.
I think people sometimes imagine child sex trafficking happening in other places to other girls, not girls that they know. How are these girls being lured in these cases, especially so adults can be aware of the risks?
Well, one of the most important things to recognize is that in the United States, the vast majority of sex trafficking cases actually involve American citizens. From the federal data, we know that upwards of 80% of all confirmed sex trafficking cases involve U.S. citizens, and up to 40% of those cases involve the sale of children. And so it's an incredibly important American problem and one that's happening in communities all throughout the country. I think that one of the things that we're hoping comes to light and that people are able to connect the dots between the Epstein case and child sex trafficking all across this nation is that it's often very powerful men with means taking advantage of the vulnerabilities of some of our most marginalized young women and girls.
Well, at least they didn't say podcasters. Jeez.
Well, we can't afford it. So,
no.
So the point is that this whole thing is now starting to look pretty pretty fishy, if you ask me, insofar as where they're pointing the finger at the white man, the privileged guy, the rich business guy, and all the rest of it. And we're not just talking about, sex trafficking is any sort of prostitution, anything. It's completely out of control. And nobody brings up the idea of a black pimp, which is a common
Huggy Bear
person. That doesn't exist because it's only the privileged who get the prostitutes at any age, apparently. And everybody else is just they're shaking their head and shaming these privileged few white businessmen. Usually, the way they.
Well, I find that whole conversation really steered away from how horrific it is to do this to underage girls. They're just talking about prostitution, and they just mention a name, a number, but not about the actual damage when you're doing this to a 15 or a 14-year-old. I mean, you're right. You are 100% correct. Everything you saw on the news, in the media about this is distraction. What are they not talking about? The victims. They're not really actually talking.
They're not interested in the victims. They're only interested in Trump.
Yes, the media
and
has
Acosta. And why do we have Schumer coming out demanding he quit? The Labor Department's got nothing to do with this case unless you want to consider prostitutes a labor force.
Okay,
why don't they say that? And then you could get rid of him.
When it comes,
the guy has a conflict of interest.
When it comes to elites in government, in banking, in royalty, and pedophilia, I have some standing with work I've done over the past 20 years.
Well, you had a radio station burned down.
When I mentioned that the Attorney General of the Netherlands at the time, who not only admitted as much, but also there was videographic evidence and eyewitness testimony that he was sodomizing young Turkish boys and had allowed himself to become blackmailable inside the highest position of the Department of Justice in the Netherlands. I merely discussed it with Misha Kat. He is the journalist who uncovered it. And yes, immediately one of the most high-powered law firms came down on the station. It didn't literally burn to the ground, but they lost their license, lost their funding, and the station shut down. So I became very interested in these types of cases.
Yeah.
And
why not?
And of course, it's fantastic to have a guy like Acosta in the Trump administration and to go get Trump. But why are they asking for Acosta to resign? That's what it is everywhere, even The View.
That's the problem here, and that's why Acosta has to resign. He has to resign. He has to resign because when you're a prosecutor, your job is not only to seek justice for...
You're asking the right question.
...the victims of a crime, to protect the community from their future crimes. By giving him that sweetheart deal, he allowed these new victims to be victimized. He didn't protect the community.
But also to have him in the position he's in now.
Yes.
It's
in his cabinet. Well, I also don't think people like Alan Dershowitz should be on TV right now while they're being accused of being involved. There's a lot of people that have a lot to answer.
There is a lot of people.
Okay. So they are calling for resignations, which makes no sense other than that you might want this guy out of the way. Maybe he knows something. Maybe what really went down was a little bit different than being portrayed. So all we're hearing on the news is Acosta, Trump, best buddies, flew on the plane once.
Well, I've said this before and I'll say it again. And I wrote in the newsletter and I haven't said it specifically on the show. And I'm working on another essay that is coming out shortly that discusses this. They are trying to equate the creepy behavior of Joe Biden and his kissing little girls on the lips and hugging them and whispering in their ears and just being a creep to Trump so they can do a checklist. I believe there's a checklist out there that says whatever Biden did bad, Trump did worse. Biden did this, Trump's worse. Biden did this, Trump's worse. This is a part of the whole scheme to get Biden nominated, I believe. And they need to smear Trump and all his buddies with the guilt by association. There's a series of photos. Everybody that Ghislaine Maxwell ever had a photo taken with, which appears to be half the men in the Western Hemisphere, everybody, they all show these pictures of her with these other people. So they're obviously all pedophiles and they're all related to Trump. And the whole thing is about, I believe still is about propping up Biden.
Okay. And I have a different opinion. That is what the news media is doing. What is actually going on is, I think, something completely different. And I'd like you to go along into Adam's mind for a moment and just leave it open for information and supposition and conspiratorial thinking. Let's go back to this original case. It was a case that was brought by the sheriff. The sheriff found this out of the whatever, Palm Beach County, whatever it is. Took it to the state attorney. State attorney wouldn't touch it. That's when the feds came in. The feds are like, holy crap, these guys are going to let the guy go, so they put a deal together. Then all of a sudden, there's word from higher hand, and this is in the documents, that Epstein was possibly, that he had worked for the FBI, he had done some stuff. Please go easy on him. What Acosta wrote, and he's written a lot about this. He has a lot of legal opinions. He was very disappointed in how it went down. But there was literally in a document that says he's been very helpful to the FBI. Take that into consideration.
Well, I don't want to interrupt your thinking, but there's also a moment where somebody told someone that he was a member of the intelligence community.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
So you're jumping way ahead, so just go along for the ride. Let's go back to the woman who originally broke the story, Conchita Sarnoff. She wrote an article for Vanity Fair in which the editor had a meeting with Epstein and cut out all the salacious details of his sexual abuse. The timing of all of this is very interesting. It was 2002 when this came to light, but it wasn't until 2007, 2008, very important years when the case went to trial and when this non-prosecutorial agreement was put in place. Here she is explaining what was going on at the time.
This is my biggest question, and I don't understand why no one is pointing fingers at and actually explaining why Barry Kersher cut the deal that he cut. The onus fell on the state attorney's office. As you know, after the chief of police, Michael Ritter, whom I spoke to at length for many, many years since I started the investigation back in 2009, Ritter said to me many times, I did not accept Kersher's deal. He wanted to charge him with a misdemeanor, no jail time, no restitution, and no registration as a sex offender. Then he took the case. Ritter takes the case to the feds.
The police chief.
Yes, Michael Ritter, the Palm Beach police chief, takes the case to the feds. That's when Acosta comes in. That's not until 2006. And so Acosta and his team, with Villafana and others, they start to investigate. That takes 2 years. There's a 53-page indictment against Epstein. But what happens? Well, we're getting close to the 2008 presidential campaign. Hillary Clinton is the Democratic shoo-in at the time. President Obama was still not at the forefront. And so I believe, given the information that I have and what I've read, that at the very top of the food chain, they did not want to make, as the Attorney General said to me when I interviewed him, Alberto Gonzalez, they did not want to make a political mess. So they basically tapped Acosta again, which is also why they hired Ken Starr and Jay Lefkowitz, who were the two.
Lots of high-profile names involved in this thing.
Absolutely. They were the two attorneys who negotiated the plea deal, meaning the non-prosecution agreement that was handed to Epstein, which, by the way, was not in order, as Acosta told me, because I have been speaking to Acosta for many years since the original investigation and the original arrest.
So you'll notice that what you don't hear on the news is, hey, who was Acosta reporting to? Who was above him? Who was the boss? Well, there were a number of people who were the boss. Gonzalez was the boss, and then we had Eric Holder come in as the boss. We had an extended term for FBI Director Robert Mueller, who was in there. So what the original reporter here is saying is, he got some kind of notice from higher hand because this would mess everything up for Hillary, and I remember us talking about this case back in those days. And I think even the The flight log was something that had popped up at that time, but that became a problem. This is Bradley Edwards. He is the attorney for the victims. He's been on this case for a long time. And there's the case of the Little Black Book, which was Epstein's. You've probably seen some scans of it. Scan of a scan of a scan. Did I do that? Oh, sorry. Yeah. That was accidental. A scan of a scan, but it contains a whole bunch of interesting names. This was great evidence, but it became toxic.
And the document you mentioned a moment ago listing the massages, is that the Little Black Book, the Holy Grail, that I think that's the way you refer to it in the documents, right?
Right, exactly. And that's actually a document that his housekeeper stole from him at some point in time. And a long story, but eventually tried to sell it to me, and then I had to cooperate with the FBI, and
he gets more time than Epstein does.
He got more time, and then I think he died as soon as he got out of
shortly
prison.
After that. I saw that.
Very unfortunate. Because he was one of the only people that we talked to who showed up to a deposition and was not represented by a lawyer that was being paid for by Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. Or he didn't take the fifth like many of the other witnesses. He was
willing to speak.
He was willing to speak and willing to tell the truth. And then he just decided to do something stupid and illegal. Yeah, and ruined all of the credibility that came along with him. I mean, that was one of the most unfortunate and sad parts of the entire investigation.
So we have the Black Book, we have the flight log. You'll notice if you go to Bill Clinton's wiki page that as he announced that he had only been on Epstein's airplane 4 times instead of the 27 times listed in the flight logs written up by different pilots and on different aircraft, because Epstein has a couple of them, not just the Lolita Express, he also had a Gulfstream. This Black Book contained a lot of names. And I just want to give you a little rundown of the people in the Black Book. Janice Dickinson, Joan Rivers, George Mitchell, Michael Bloomberg, Andrew Cuomo, Barbara Walters, Alec Baldwin, Ralph Fiennes, George Hamilton, Dustin Hoffman, Kevin Spacey, Liz Hurley, Lauren Hutton, Naomi Campbell, Christy Turlington, Henry Kissinger, Courtney Love, Mick Jagger, Cornelia Guest, Phil Collins, Itzhak Perlman, Simon Le Bon, Charlie Rose, Richard Branson, Candace Bushnell, Tom Ford, Vera Wang, Dershowitz, Kissinger, Tony Blair, Rupert Murdoch, Ehud Olmert, Leslie Wexner, we'll get to him in a second, Mort Zuckerman, Dennis Ross, Bernard-Henri Levy, that asshole from France, Goldman Sachs strategist Abby Joseph Cohen, President Bush. I mean, the list goes, Mikhail Gorbachev, Shimon Peres, the list goes on and on and on. From my own investigation over 2 decades, I can tell you there is without a doubt many, but maybe aggregate into 1 or 2 large ones, pedophile networks of powerful people. And I know it sounds really incredible to listen to, but yes, there are people who have so much power, money, wealth, standing, that they resort to this. It's like an addiction. You know, as with any addiction, it gets out of control. Sex addiction is a real thing. Now you get to this younger children's sex addiction. It happens, and it's used for nefarious purposes in these circles. Let's go to Acosta. Acosta's press statement that he gave yesterday regarding other individuals who might have been involved.
I wanted to ask and follow up with your answer to the earlier question about the potential co-conspirators. Were you confident at the time that any potential additional co-conspirators didn't commit sexual abuses against underage girls like Epstein did, even if it may not have been at the same scale? Because some of those victims have accused others of doing similar acts to them.
So, let me see how I can address your question without running afoul of Department of Justice guidelines.
Okay, so he can't say stuff. That's literally what he's saying.
If my office had been aware of individuals who committed acts such as sexual abuse, my office, it would not have been my position that those individuals should have been part of that kind of immunity. It's not even an immunity deal. It should not have been part of that paragraph. And so I know that there are a lot of rumors about who those individuals may or may not be. I think those rumors are misconstruing the acts of the office with respect to that particular paragraph.
Okay, nice non-answer, but we all understand that he cannot talk about other people involved. Let's go back to the victim attorney, Bradley Edwards, who was more than willing to talk to this attorney. It didn't even have to be deposed. It was Donald Trump.
The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009.
So 2009, Trump is already very happy to talk to this attorney about what he knows about Epstein. Apparently it was very helpful. I don't think Trump is very worried. Doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would do this if he was really incredibly worried about being implicated in anything. In fact, I don't think he's this kind of guy. He's got a whole bunch of other issues, but I don't think this is one of them. One person, interestingly enough, who has been all over the big question, which is not even addressed, is who is Jeffrey Epstein? Everyone says billionaire financier. Well, shit, I'm a financier to our kids. Here's $20. I'm a financier. Is he a hedge fund manager? Well, no one really has seen any trades. I'm not quite sure. Where's his money coming from? So originally, Les Wexner, who owns all the L brands, that was kind of his guy. And in fact, I think he even bought the mansion in New York, was originally from Les Wexner. And the secondary guy who comes along into Epstein's life, who was had no track record as a trader, no Wall Street experience, but all of a sudden here he is, financier to the rich and famous, Steve Hoffenberg. Steve Hoffenberg is the guy who showed him the ropes, and Epstein was in business with him, although Epstein was very lucky because Hoffenberg, before Bernie Madoff, was convicted of the largest Ponzi scheme in history at the time, $475 million. And that also took away a lot of Epstein's liquid cash to do whatever he was doing. The person who's been on this and understanding who Jeffrey Epstein really is, which no one's investigating it. It's just a fan, just a rich guy, billionaire, hedge fund manager. Bullshit. No one knows the guy on the street. Ann Coulter actually has been all over this.
I think the most interesting two things about this case are, number one, where does Jeffrey Epstein get his money? My theory doesn't account for it all. We know it's not because he's investing money. He was, a high school math teacher. This guy Wexner grabs him. Oh, you're a genius. And suddenly the amount of real estate and private planes this guy has, it is billions of dollars. You're not privately investing anything without ever, moving the market. That is clearly untrue. My theory was that he was the concierge of this underage sex club, so to speak, and some wealthy men paid for this. But, this is kind of a niche sexual fetish, underage boys and pedophilia. Girls. I mean, how many billionaires do we have here? Which makes me, and let me throw the other second thing that I think is very interesting about this case. Epstein, according to both the girls' accounts, he wanted them to have sex with powerful men, come back to him and report on it, describe what they wanted, what their fetishes were, and he had cameras throughout the house. So this is obviously for blackmailing purposes. It just seems to me there is something much bigger is behind this, perhaps a state sponsor, powerful enough people for, as the evidence I described for the original state charge, forget the, Democrat, Republicans, whatever. It just seems to me there's a very powerful force behind what's going on here, and I am still nervous about this not coming to a conclusion.
Man, I agree with Ann Coulter, certainly when you see the way the conversation is being steered. So it appears to me that Jeffrey Epstein is the kind of guy, and this wouldn't be the first in history, but throws parties. It's all great. It's a great time. We know how he recruited the girls. This is now open knowledge. everybody come on down to the island. Let's hang out. Let's party. Maybe you can hang out with these girls. And then after, let's just take Bill Clinton as an example. Maybe he finds a 15, 14-year-old very attractive. He has a good time with her. And then maybe a week or two later, Epstein calls and says, "Oh, Bill, man. Oh, I just found out that, that girl that you were hanging out with at the island, dude, she's 15. But, I got it under control. I think we can handle this. Why don't you put $5 million into my fund, which, by the way, is 2%, 20% of the profit, and which he just invested in S&P 500 or something. He wasn't trading anything. But you just, why don't you do that, and then I'll keep all of this on the QT. And take into account the models, the relationship between Epstein and the Q something modeling agency. This is a blackmail scheme that it's clear as day to me, as clear as day. And it's all under the guise of we're having a good time, we're partying, it's not a problem, it's all great. And then he just goes and he starts to rake it in, and then everybody's hooked. And now everybody has something on everybody else. And I think that is the basis of his wealth, what he's been doing, the scam he's been running. Everything points to it. There could be a bigger state actor, but let's just, for a second here, let's stick in this. This went unfinished during the Obama administration. They should have wrapped this all up. They should have taken care of whoever needed to be taken care of, because this was just waiting for Trump politically to grab this. And I think that he is steering this. He's behind it. Everything points to him not being involved and wanting to help bring this to justice. Maybe it also connects to Mueller. Again, he had an extended period outside of the 10-year term, which is legally set in stone, but somehow they weaseled that into 2 extra. Maybe there was some stuff that he had to fix or some things he had to change or whatever. Maybe the FBI was using Epstein for blackmail purposes to get information through him. Here's the question you were asking earlier about being an intelligence asset. It came up in the presser.
Secretary, were you ever made aware at any point in your handling of this case if Mr. Epstein was an intelligence asset of some sort?
So there has been reporting to that effect, and let me say there's been reporting to a lot of effects in this.
Please notice he's not going to answer the question.
Case, not just now, but over the years, and again, I would hesitate to take this reporting as fact. This was a case that was brought by our office. It was brought based on the facts. And I look at that reporting and others. I can't address it directly because of our guidelines. But I can tell you that a lot of reporting is just going down rabbit holes. A few more questions.
Yeah, so that is another great non-answer. Wish I could answer the question, but I'll just talk about something else. So it is possible, and this is where Ghislaine Maxwell comes into play, daughter of Robert Maxwell, who was pretty much seen as an Israeli asset, an Israeli intelligence asset, which I guess would be Mossad. It is possible that this was the Israelis running this. It's possible that they were running it with the FBI, that they were running it together. That I don't know. Maybe some of that will come out of all this. But in my mind, we are looking here at the possibility. Something has to happen. Something has to pop. There has to be another name that comes out. It could actually be Dershowitz, who was in a very bad position, who is now, just this morning I read, said, well, I did get a massage at Epstein's place, but it was from a grandma and she kept her panties on. This is not looking good for Dershowitz or for anybody involved in this. And once one or two of them fall, I think we'll see Bill Clinton go down. We may see Chuck Schumer go down. There's a reason why Schumer is on the floor calling for Acosta to resign. They need Acosta out. Acosta is dangerous because Acosta knows who told him to put this deal. It wasn't him autonomously, a U.S. state's attorney. So it's blackmail, possibly FBI spying, possibly part of an Israeli intelligence blackmailing operation. And that's where I think we're at.
Yeah, I'm completely on the opposite spectrum of this. Mainly because of Occam's razor. Somebody pointed this out. You have billionaires involved in a sex ring. Billionaires, most of them have one or maybe two or maybe more fixers that would have killed this guy by now. Why isn't he dead? And he should have been dead if this was going on. If it was a blackmail operation, there's too many people being blackmailed. You can't keep that many balls in the air. It's bullshit that it was blackmail in the first place. Look at it from a more logical Occam's razor perspective. This guy is running. I think you're right about the investment thing. Although he has had a lot of experience at Bear Stearns, he was no slouch. But setting up an index fund and just having people put in money into it so you could join the club. A whisper network. Hey, yeah, if you give a couple million into Epstein's little index fund here, you get to go to the parties, you get to do this, you get to do that, and you're gonna be introduced to a lot of young girls, and that is not going to be filmed. There were no cameras. There will be no tapes. There is no tapes no more than Tom Arnold and his tapes of Trump. The whole idea of tapes is all QAnon kind of thing. There's no tapes because you can't have tapes. You're going to get yourself killed at this level. Yeah, you could blackmail some jerk that, makes a few $100,000 a year and he's got a wife and kids. This is not happening with these people. They will kill him. There are no tapes. It was a club. It was a sex tryst club covered up by a lot of celebrities who joined the club by putting some money into his fund and taking a lot of trips to Lolita Island or whatever they call it, the Lolita Express to the island. And that's that. And we keep our eyes, we shut up about it. We don't talk about it. Epstein's not talking about it. Nobody's rolling over. Nothing like this is going to happen. Whether there's intelligence agencies involved is probably bullshit. This is just a straight up sex cult club with a cover that he's a hedge fund manager. And he is a hedge fund manager. And he probably does manage that money and nobody's losing any money. But he's making a lot of money on the the 2%, 20% thing you mentioned. I don't believe a word of this blackmail thing at this point.
I can't counter about tapes or intelligence operations because that's just conspiratorial theories at this point. However, the lawyer who was trying to bring this to justice came back from Chicago with his son. He had, of course, small aviation. The plane blew up in the sky, and he had made a phone call before he left saying, I think I have this. I have the info I need. He died. The guy, the butler who had all the goods, had the black book. He died. So people are dying, and we'll have to leave it at that. But if this is what I think it is, and it is a push from Trump to get to a number of people before the 2020 election, then it will unfold. If I'm wrong, then it won't. Then it just goes away.
The way I see it, it'll go away, except, Epstein's going to get nailed for he's going to end up in jail, which is what Acosta says he always wanted. He never expected him to go out on release, according to him, the now expurgated interview that I heard. And so everybody's going to be happy about that. I just think this was all promoted by the media and elsewhere as a point of just another way to screw with Trump.
No, I got you. Made your point. You made your point really clear. You talked about it for 15 minutes. You made your point about that, and that is happening. That's what the news media is doing.
I didn't talk about it for 15 minutes. If I talked about it for 2 minutes, it was long.
The news media is taking this as a way to get to Trump. Totally agree. I just happen to think that it is a Trump operation to expose people before the 2020 election. You can't counter that. I can't counter what you're saying. Let's just see what happens. Right now, you're ahead because it's being used to fuck Trump. That's no doubt about it. But I have been around. I've been around these assholes, and they're fucking creepy. And they do creepy stuff. So
nobody's denying that.
Well, when you do creepy stuff and people know about it, blackmail comes into play whether you have videos or not. It's just what happens. It comes into play. Kids die. Witnesses die. All kinds of people die. So we'll see. I will say that it's rather odd that Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, is apparently on the prosecution team. That's kind of annoying. But on the other hand, I thought it was interesting that Nancy Pelosi's daughter, Christine Pelosi, tweeted the following, quote, "This Epstein case is horrific, and the young women deserve justice. It is quite likely that some of our faves are implicated, but we must follow the facts and let the chips fall where they may, whether on Republicans or Democrats." Some of our faves? What the hell does that mean?
There was an article in The Guardian that said, let it be exposed no matter how many Democrats fall.
Yeah. Well, we had a big Republican scandal. It turns out, and this I actually tweeted out a link. It's on YouTube. It's still everywhere. The Boys Town documentary that never aired. The thing was for ITV or Channel 4 in the UK. It's about Boys Town, USA, which was in Oklahoma, and Lawrence King, who ran a pedophile, basically rent boy network to politicians. You can go back and look it up. I mean, in fact, it was in the cover of the New York Times. My uncle was doing midnight tours with gay prostitutes of the White House during the Bush era. And, Poppy and George have been, there's a lot of whispers about their sexuality for many, many years and many scandals involving them, right down to the press room, if you remember that. When one of his rent.
The Boys Town thing is still, if you search and search and search, you will find, although it's grown hairs, as they like to say.
Yeah, and the audio's grown potatoes.
Is out there.
It's on YouTube.
And it's
I
very
tweeted a link.
Interesting. And the Lawrence King thing is pretty disgusting and gross.
Right. The Republicans, they like boys for some reason. That's their kick. The Democrats, it appears they like young girls.
Well, that's unique.
It's just the facts that I have in front of me.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, it's kind of, yeah. This is noticeable for some reason.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, what do you expect? All right. Well, I think we got it. At least we set the groundwork.
Yeah, we need
what's
more
going to happen.
Yeah, we need more to.
This will be pretty much like the shoe thing, which is kind of an interesting situation too.
I'm sorry, the shoe thing.
And we'll see what happens. It's just what happens. But at least I think we've given a little more information out there than the news media wants to do, and we're not hounding Acosta to quit.
Yeah, that's the. Yeah, I hope he doesn't have. Well, we'll see. What do you mean? You said the shoe thing? What shoe thing?
The Betsy Ross flag shoe.
Oh. I'm like, the shoe thing? That was so last episode, John. We're moving on. Can't do a Betsy Ross shoe every single show. Well,
okay.
Where would you like to pick it up from here?
Well, we can go in all kinds of different directions from that. The cannabis story is interesting, but let's know. Now, this runs a little short. Oh, here's one that you're not going to hear in this country. This is going on in the Great Lakes and all over the place, and the Canadians are reporting about it, but we're not. And this is the goldfish invasion.
Well, they're an easy first pet, a popular ornamental fish, a calming presence in dentist offices. But if goldfish are discarded in the wrong way, they can grow into destructive, monsters. Parts of Lake Ontario are filled with them, so researchers have launched a unique catch and release operation in hopes of getting the upper hand. Cass Rusi shows us how.
We started tagging goldfish in 2017.
Near Hamilton, Ontario, aquatic research biologist Christine Boston and her team are on a mission.
Oh, get that guy.
A mission to rid the waters of an unwanted and unwelcomed predator, goldfish.
Mike, what?
And not the tiny orange-colored variety in aquariums.
What are they doing in the harbor? These are meant to be in a fish bowl. So why are they so big? I don't remember goldfish being that big.
I think they have the resources. They have an unlimited supply of food here in the harbor for them.
That's good for the goldfish, which are not only surviving, but thriving.
It's doing well, and our native fish aren't doing well. It competes for the habitat that our fish need to spawn and reproduce. They generate a lot of turbidity in the water, which decreases the water quality.
So how did this happen?
Well, apparently that little goldfish in the goldfish bowl, those little guys are stunted because people feed them so much, and they stay in the. If you give a little goldfish in your goldfish bowl, the opportunity to live in a lake, it will become 2 feet long.
Huh.
So those giant goldfish that you see in the certain aquariums, and they show them off in Japan. Those are the same fish, the little guys. And this happened because people started flushing the goldfish down the toilet or throwing them in. Goldfish. We can't keep this goldfish, honey. I'm going to let him loose in the lake. And so they let him go. And the next thing you know, we're plagued with these giant goldfish.
Are they like
all
koi?
over Lake Ontario for starters, but apparently every place else, in any place that has a lot of carp, the carp, which are a pain in the ass and a nuisance, the goldfish have replaced many of them. And so this is like a huge problem.
So are these like koi?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like it's about a 2 foot long, actually, generally speaking, about 12 inches to 24-inch long goldfish.
Swallow that, bitch.
So, I guess, and they're not good eating, and they're pretty. They're definitely pretty.
Yeah. Wow. I bet you that's happening everywhere. I bet you it's happening in Austin. I bet you it's happening in Austin too. I got a note from the former New York banker. He linked to a Wall Street Journal article, which started off about Deutsche Bank. They're getting rid of 18,000 jobs or whatever.
Yeah, they're firing a bunch of people.
But the title of his email was, "Remember 5 years ago," he said, "I told you we won." And you look at this article, the European banks are not doing business anymore. It's all U.S. banks who are doing the mergers, the acquisitions, the advisory role, the IPOs. All the European banks are essentially out of business, and they still haven't dealt with the 2008 issues. They still have toxic debt. This is what is happening with Deutsche Bank. So it looks like we kind of, I don't know if you talked about this with Horowitz, but it looks like the U.S. banks have just have taken over the Eurozone, and the European banks have capitulated.
Well, we won, but what did you explain why the European banks can't keep up? I mean, Horowitz and I talk about most recently about their negative interest rate experiment. Which is probably what sunk them.
You might want to try and explain this, because I think it's useful for people to understand.
If you buy bonds overseas outside of the United States, our bonds are cheap. The bonds are expensive, but the interest rates are low. They get 1.8, 2.2% for a various length treasury bond. In Europe and Asia, they've been experimenting because they're looking at some other kinds of numbers, and they didn't like the idea of quantitative easing, and they've had a different approach to trying to stabilize. They have negative interest rates. So if you invest $1,000 and you hold the bond to maturity, you get back like $900 and something.
Woo! What an investment.
So it's not much of an investment, to say the least. And so everybody's using arbitrage to kind of get free bonds from their government and then buy our bonds. And so it's like it's strengthened our entire banking system and our structures. And all the the big ones, in fact, the worst case scenarios in Switzerland, of all places, where I thought they had the strongest banking system because they have their Swiss bankers. It's like got a reputation, but no, they have the biggest negative interest rate in Switzerland, and the whole thing is baffling. I mean, Horowitz can't understand it. I can't understand it. I don't know why they're doing it, what the point of it is, and it's not doing them any good, and it's doing us a lot of good. And we're a target for investments, and so the money keeps flowing in the United States.
Hence, we won. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, but what do we get? We won. Yeah, we did.
Oh, I think when he says we won, I think he means American banks won. I don't think that America won.
Well, yeah, obviously, but American banks won. But what did we win?
All the business.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just the strangest thing I've ever seen. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's put it that way. I hope somebody writes a book or has a better way of explaining it.
So you had that.
He didn't help. He's not very helpful. We won. Okay, great. Why? How? What was the mechanism? How did they get stupid overnight? I mean, what happened?
That will be something for the next dinner I take him out to. These are the questions I will take with me and ask him profusely. Very interesting data coming in from the ham radio community. As you know, hams will save the world.
They will.
Well,
right.
Where's my guy? Here he is. Here's my guy.
Now here we have ham radio, guys. Ham radio is the public service network of last resort. When the apocalypse comes, we're the guys who are going to save the world, right?
So there's a dude, Victor Echo 7 Delta X-Ray Whiskey. His name is Alex. And he maintains the RF Seismograph website. And he has drawn correlations between earthquake activity and propagation of the high-frequency radio bands. And according to the RF Seismograph, so propagation, the way shortwave, I'll just call it shortwave to make it easy. The way shortwave radio works that hams operate on is your signal goes out and it bounces off the ionosphere, and it can bounce back down to Earth, and it can make several skips or hops, as we call it, until it reaches halfway around the world. It'll fade in and fade out sometimes, and this is what we call propagation, and it depends on the quote-unquote RF conditions. But around 4 p.m. UTC, July 4th, continuing to July 5th, there was a total blackout of propagation in California's Mojave Desert. And this leads me, of course, immediately to conclude that there was something going on that may have helped spur these quakes along. I'm a big fan of the earthquake machine. It's not like it's not talked about, and it's not talked about in Congress. We've played the clips of Cohen, was he Secretary of Defense, who said, hey, everyone else has got weather modification, earthquake stuff. We need to have this too. So it's possible that there was some high aural array radio activity, HARP, as we call it, that may have either inadvertently or purposely set off something. Or maybe it was just testing. But to have this propagation just drop out before, during, and after the event is, I think, noticeable, is something of note.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
Also, he may be able to...
It might have been a test of something, but of course they target... Where we're going to target it without really causing, hurting anybody.
Let's do the desert.
Let's do the desert.
And it was right near...
I don't even know if they... When I first heard about it being in the Mojave Desert, I didn't even know there was a town there.
Well, there's a weapons testing facility. That's the whole.
Well,
that's
I knew
the
there's
whole
a
point.
weapons testing facility, but I guess you had to have a town to support it, unless everyone's going to.
Yeah, China Lake.
Yeah, so they have a town there, and the town was like shook.
Oh,
pretty good.
The town has been shook up.
I like the shot of the camera inside the liquor store.
It's so sad to see all that alcohol go. So sad. But with that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who put the C in convicted pedo bear, John C. Dvorak.
Well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. In the morning, all the ships and sea boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
In the morning to our trolls who have been with us patiently throughout some technical difficulties earlier on this morning and are in the troll room trolling away as they do so well. Thank you for being here. NoAgendaStream.com, which is not just for trolling this show. We've got plenty of shows, 24/7. You can always check out noagendastream.com, log into the chat, just chat if you want, hang out, talk stuff, or troll whatever show is going on. It's a lot of fun.
Well, we have a good array of executive and associate executive producers,
I'd like to
especially
thank,
the associate executives goes on for days.
I'd like to thank our artists first, which we typically do. So Darren O'Neill brought us the artwork for episode 1153. The title of that was Pink Pound. You can pronounce it.
He also brought the artwork for the newsletter.
Well, this was the No Agenda NASA Lost Tapes. It was just a great piece. He had the fonts. Everything was perfect. It was almost a non-brainer for us.
And it was pretty.
It was very pretty, and we appreciate that, Darren. Darren is, I don't know how many pieces of artwork has he had now? 15?
He's getting there. He's catching up to Martin JJ, who seems to have just retired.
Martin, these guys sometimes can't listen live or can't do artwork
that's
live.
right. I think Martin JJ or somebody.
No,
I know
Thorin.
Somebody wrote us and saying, "Hey, or Thor or Pay or one of these guys that used to do a lot of art."
Thorin.
I think it was Thor. He says, "I can't listen live. I can't do art. I mean, it's just the way it is."
NoAgendaArtGenerator.com. You can check out all the pieces of art. They're great to print out, use for different purposes. You can make posters. You can make wallpaper.
Coasters, too.
No Agenda Shop makes T-shirts, mugs, etc. out of them and shares the revenue with the show and with the artists, which is fantastic. And it's also just something to keep your skills sharp if you happen to be an artist. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com, part of our value for value proposition and network, which also includes people who support us financially. We have our associate executive producers and executive producers that we'd like to thank right now.
Yes, starting with our number one executive producer, Jacobina Kunin, who actually must be listening on the stream because she wrote a note and saying, you can use my name.
Oh, okay, good. Because I was trying to get a hold of her because her donation note was a little unclear.
Yes, she is from the Netherlands, and she wrote it. She thought she just missed last show's deadline. She says, important 4th of July, no agenda note. I donated $450 a few moments ago, and that means I'm now becoming a dame. Why? Yesterday, I went to my first meetup in Utrecht.
She was, yes, of course, she was at the Utrecht meetup, right?
Exactly. Thanks to Sir Hendrik for organizing that. Love the people. We talked and agreed and disagreed, and we shake hands and we left. What a relief. Talking without hurting anyone's feelings, so I would be a douchebag for not making a donation again. With this donation, I'm becoming a dame. Yes, after 55 years of listening to the MSM, I discovered your podcast. Thank God for that. My requests for the round table are Bosch Bolenat.
You might want to spell it for me.
Bossche Bollena something.
Bollena.
This goes into Unicode. It doesn't come
No,
up.
I think it's Borschabollen, probably.
Okay.
Which is, I think that's a food. Borschabollen, but it's something I'm not familiar with. Could be tulip bulbs.
It's something she says, I hope Adam knows how they taste.
I don't. Borschabollen. Yeah, I don't know how they taste.
What are they?
I don't know.
Oh.
I've heard.
I want to be nice. She's got a name she needs, and she's not on the list with this name, I know.
Okay.
I want to be knighted as Dame of the Doomsday Deniers.
Perfect. See, I'm glad we got a hold of her. That's good. Borschabollen, could it be beetroot? No.
Well, beetroot's tasty. Please, she needs a goat scream to everybody who is now listening and have not been donating for a long time People, if you love the show, donate. Keep up the great work, Jacobina.
Okay, Borschabollen is here. I have it now. It's a pastry filled with whipped cream and covered in chocolates. Borschabollen.
Sounds like an eclair.
It looks like an eclair too, but it's a Borschabollen.
You've got karma.
Thank you very much, Jacobina. I look forward to seeing you as the sole entrant on today's show of the No Agenda Roundtable. See you there, and we'll be daming you. And thank you for your courage.
Sir Sean Fincham in Portland, Oregon. Long overdue value for value donation here. I know I'm a bit late to the party, but I wanted to share a note regarding the Nike Betsy Ross flag shoe debacle. I have some good friends high up in Nike, as does everyone in Portland, although not marketing, unfortunately. One in global football. That means soccer, John. The others in logistics, finance, and store design. I had them cover our 4th of July. I had them over at the 4th of July barbecue, and I can't begin to tell you how entertaining it was to hear them talk about the shoe controversy. I did not ask if Colin Kaepernick was actually consulted on the matter. My bad. Although I don't think they would be in the know. More to come on that. It seems as if the story has finally created a rift within the company, though the vast majority thinking it's BS they pulled the shoe, the majority.
Oh, wow.
Which makes sense to me. Long story short, the night ended with one of my SJW friends calling another one of my friends racist. Keep in mind, these are two white 28-year-old lesbians in a room full of more white people. Gotta love Portland.
Wow. That's a good note.
Anyway, this is exactly why we need guys like you more than ever. Can't thank you enough for keeping me sane in a never-ending sea of bullshit. No jingles, just jobs karma.
Okay. And he finishes by saying, I technically become a baronet today, but I think I'll wait for the title change when I become a baron. Okay, Sir Sean. And here it is. Hey.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And thank you for your courage.
$333 comes out of Rutherglen, Virginia, from Matthew Wilbur. Wilbur, you gave me some job karma earlier this year, and it paid back in spades.
Oh, good.
Here I am in the second payment toward my fast track to knighthood. No jingles, but please send out another jobs karma to whomever may need it.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
$300 comes from Anonymous. Thanks for keeping me sane. Any Sharpton jingle, and if it's available, that's true, please. My daughter loves it. And some karma.
Okay. They sitting out on the sidewalk sipping mint tulips.
That's true. You've got karma.
Nothing like a mint tulip on a hot afternoon.
I never heard that one.
Hey, I'll play it again. It's from the archives.
They sitting out on the sidewalk sipping mint tulips.
Mint tulips on the sidewalk sipping mint tulips. Nice.
Sir Patrick Coble was a baron.
He's the Earl. He's the Earl. The Earl of Tennessee.
That's right. He wanted to Earl. He's Earl. Duke. He's not a Duke of Earl. He's an Earl. The producer credit can be credited to the Knoxville, Tennessee meetup.
Uh-huh.
We had a good turnout. Okay, so he collected some money. Well, he's qualified to do that.
Not just he's a bundler. Clearly,
he's a bundler.
He's a bundler.
No, that's a great. That we got to. That's it. That's our key. That
bundler
answers the question we needed before. We have assigned bundlers.
This is a good idea for these meetups. Yeah. Okay. So what is
he's our bundler.
Okay.
We had a good turnout with around 10 people, and I was able to collect $90, so I had to triple that so the meetup could get a producership. Thanks to Sir Scott. So the meetup got a producer, so you have to put in the list of producers.
The Knoxville, Tennessee meetup, yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, we got that. Thanks to Sir Seat Sitter for organizing it and everyone who came to hang out. A random Sharpton, another one. It's funny.
Yeah.
And an LGY will do the body good. We had two ex-dudes named Ben who were actually named Ben.
Outstanding. Thank you, Sir.
Earl of Tennessee.
And thank you, Earl of Tennessee, Sir Patrick Coble. He's the meetup machine is what he is. If he's not in the UK, then he's in Iowa, then he's in Tennessee. He's everywhere there's a meetup. And we'll give you a list of meetups you can attend in our second segment. Thank you very much, Sir Patrick Cole, and everybody who attended the Knoxville, Tennessee meetup. And I did get a few notes that very similar to what our future dame said that it's so great to just sit down and chat with people, knowing that you're not going to trigger them. It doesn't even matter what you talk about. It's just it's like a no triggering policy because everybody is sane.
RESPICT.
Yay! You've got karma.
Sir Manischewitz, $2.50. Please apply my donation to the Gravel's Dame Knighthood.
For Maxine Waters' Gravel?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
Great shows. Okay, so the Graveler is listening, so you have to, and you do the bookkeeping. You can add $250 to your coffer.
Nice.
I listened to Conspiracy Land podcast, and I wrote about this, and I had to go all JC, but that is utter bull crap to an extreme. Yeah, this was a podcast that's been developed by Yahoo.
They
hired Isikoff, the one he used to work for the New York Times, Newsweek. He ran all these jobs, and he finally ran out of places to work.
I'll do a podcast. That's where we all end up.
When he's doing a podcast, which is just really promoting his book, which he wrote with David Korn, the
douche,
the
David
Me Too guy.
Oh, well, not just that. He was. He also propagated the Steele dossier.
Right.
He was really pushing that. He was a welcome guest on all the news channels. He no longer appears to be a welcome guest.
Well, after groping, I guess not, or whatever he did.
Yeah, whoops.
Anyway,
thank you, Sir Manischewitz. Cheers.
Yeah, well. And that was $250. He's associate executive producer. And we got a lot of them for some reason. And I don't know, it wasn't anything specific in the newsletter. Maybe the dog. Not sure. Vasilios Plangetis, I think. 222.22. In the morning, I'm happy to be donating to be a second-time associate producer and have been meaning to since I finished my 100-episode run, which spans from episode 717 to 816. The donation is recognizing the fantastic work done by you two and all the executive producers and associate between episodes 717 and 816. I just wanted to quickly go over some things I learned during this run, which includes the fact that Adam has or had an airstream of consciousness. The mudflats are probably still there, and that No Agenda episode 776.5 is one of the best podcast episodes ever made. If you are new to the show, you must listen to this episode 776.5. It is a unique blend of humor and knowledge. I don't want to ramble too much, so let me do my good No Agenda duty and call out Franco as a douchebag. He's new to the show and grinding away in school, but I don't want him to fall into the trap of not donating to the best podcast in the universe. Let me remind everybody that every bit helps the show, and it feels good to donate, which is, by the way, a scientific fact. I mean, it's been studied. Adam, jingle request in this order, please. Oh, my God, can you see that juice? Get out of my vagina. Hillary, it's almost too delicious to believe, my friend. And wash your hands after touching any meat.
Love and light, Vasilios.
Oh my gosh. Can you see that juice?
Get out of my vagina.
It's almost too delicious to believe,
and
my
wash
friend.
your hands after touching any
You've
raw
got
meat.
karma.
Kind of crashy there. All right.
Albert Peter Jurgen Verheij.
Albert Peter Jurgen, it's probably a G instead of a J. Albert Peter Jurgen Verheij. You nailed it.
I nailed it.
Yeah.
He's in Holland, 22222.
Dankjewel, Albert Peter Jurgen Verheij.
I will look for a note.
Okay.
And we will run that note in the second half if I can find it. Sir Tim of the Tunnels and Waipahu, Hawaii, 200. Damn that pooch! It needs a name. Oh, we're talking about the dog, which I used when we were in trouble.
It worked.
Damn that pooch! It needs a name like Pitiful Pete or something equally pathetic. No jingles and goat karma for all, Sir Tim.
Well, does the dog have a name? It's your dog.
It doesn't have a name. I'm just calling it Sorry Dog, but maybe I'll come up with a name for him.
You've got karma.
The sad beagle.
The broke beagle.
Broke beagle.
Broke beagle.
Bear and Dirty Dick Bangs of DC, 200.
Yoo-hoo.
In honor of our beagle, Buck, our first and last beagle. Anyway, it's another reference to the dog. Great analysis of late. The quote you're looking for regarding the Nike something, Republicans buy shoes too.
Oh, that's a Michael Jordan quote.
Oh, Republicans buy shoes too, Michael Jordan, yeah. And John was right. The Betsy Ross shoes were cool. Now I'll have to pay 10x for them. Please call out my triple terror trio, Archer Bangs, Barrett Bangs, and Colton Bangs. My 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and 2-month-old, ABC for short. Congrats for Adam and Tina. Congrats for Adam and Tina. No jingle, no karma. Bear and Dirty Dick Bangs of DC.
And thank you, Dirty Dick Bangs. I love you and your family. It's just the family that listens to No Agenda together will probably stay together and have a nice, long, prosperous, and happy life.
I suspect so. Eric Wordemon.
There you go.
This mail follows my drunk donation. I need to apologize for my
I'm sorry. Stop. Since this is a Dutchman, and since he's drunk, I feel I should do the donation.
Okay, I'm giving it to you.
Hey, Sean and Adam. This mail follows my drunk donation. I need to apologize for my notifications on that topic on No Agenda Social. Listening to you has been a joy since John's Ants. Thank you for your deconstructions. My mother always tells me that a smile makes you pretty. Well, I'm as hot as hell when I'm listening. As far as current topics go, I have decided that your soccer is actually football, that girls suck at that. And American football is actually American handball or kickball or what you want. Girls suck at football. I got excited for the win, but it's not football. So Chris will have to say something about Australian football. So there's that. Other donations have been scheduled. They will be boobs donations because boobs. Thank you very much, Eric and NL.
You've gotta have boobs.
I'll give him a karma for that.
You've got karma.
I found, while you're doing that, Arnold's note, but it says some discomfort with PayPal donation coming up, not today, but probably next days, and it just doesn't have the note here. So, I don't know. There's a note coming too, I assume.
From
it's the only note I have from him.
From whom?
The one up the Albert Peter Jurgen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, onward.
This one's all you.
Baroness of Kendall in Bernie, Texas. Burn on fire. John, please, shout out to my No Agenda listeners. Shout out to my No Agenda listeners in the following townships. Bulverde, Texas. Bern, Texas. Cibolo, Texas. Schertz, Texas. Seguin, Texas. Lytle, Texas. Leaky, Texas. Sabinal, Texas. Uvalde, Texas. Poth. And Bastrop.
You got Bastrop and Bernie right. This was a setup.
You, John.
This was a horrible.
Baroness of Kendall.
A horrible setup. Just trying to get you to pronounce every town in Texas wrong. I think it's unfair. I call foul on that.
Foul,
You've
Texas.
Got karma.
Thank you, Baroness of Kendall. I'm sure other Texans will get a kick out of that.
Well, hopefully they'll donate. Sir Antonio of Madrid, and that's in Spain. You gave me a lot of hours of joy, laughs, and food for thought. No Agenda is the best podcast in the universe. Please give me some job karma. All the best.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And Sir Antonio will be our last associate executive producer for show 1154. Coming up on 1155, which is a curiosity numerologically, and we're going to promote this. We have two things coming up on Sunday. One is it's going to be International Mac and Cheese Day.
Woo!
And International Nude Day. Woo! And 1155 is 33 times 33 plus 33 plus 33.
Can't get much crazier than that.
So we're having a $33 special on next Sunday. And also recommending people, we don't usually recommend mac and cheese, but mac and cheese in the nude.
It's a fine combo. With 33 of your friends, what could possibly go wrong?
The Mac and Cheese Life. Mac and Cheese by Ayn Rand.
And thank you to our executive and associate executive producers. These are titles that you may proudly display on business cards, your letterhead. Put it on your desk. Put it on your cubicle. Put it on your social media profile. People care about this stuff. And it's true. You are a producer of episode 1154 of the No Agenda podcast. If anyone questions that, we'll be happy to vouch for you. And as John just said, we've got a fabulous opportunity for lots of good karma this Sunday coming up with our special trifecta of donations. Please remember that.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Yeah, that's where you want to go. All right, everybody, stand by for more deconstruction because that's what it's all about.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Order.
Shut up, slave.
Shut up, slave.
Yeah.
That was a good group.
That was a great group and funny, too. Funny. I like it when it's funny.
So we have a report I just want to do is an informational report.
Okay.
This is summer, middle of summer, in most places, not here, because in California coast, it's always chilly. But kids in hot cars, be careful out there.
Next tonight to the warning to parents as the first heat wave of the season grips parts of the country. Police say a 3-year-old boy was found dead after trapping himself in a minivan in Morristown, Tennessee. At least 15 hot car deaths now reported in the U.S. this year. Here's ABC's Marcus Moore.
This frantic scene unfolding outside an Oklahoma liquor store. Police trying to open a car's doors. A 14-month-old child left inside Wednesday. As two women walked toward the car.
Is this your car?
Yes, sir.
Open it up right now. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. What the hell were you thinking?
A second officer removing the child. Police say he was wearing only a wet diaper, clammy to touch, and had bright red skin.
Is that your child? Then you come here. Turn around and put your hands behind your back.
The child's mother arrested. In 2018, 52 children died in hot cars across the country. And already this year, more than a dozen have lost their lives.
Wow. What idiots are these people?
I don't know. I think
it's California. It's California.
Was that California? Was a California report. That's a national report.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, you're pretty stupid if you do that. Even for a few minutes.
Yeah, what's the big deal? You
dumb.
take the kid out, and that one kid was just crawling around anyway.
Yeah, put it on a leash.
Take him with you into the store, hold him. You can do that. It's not that hard.
Put the kid on a leash.
Well, the kid's he was a baby.
Oh, he couldn't walk. Okay.
So anyway, I got this report I got from PBS, and I put at the beginning of it WTF because it's a report on drug prices, and it there's something in here that makes zero sense. You will hear it.
A federal court in Washington has blocked the Department of Health and Human Services from making drug companies show prices in their TV ads. The mandate was to take effect today in a bid to bring about lower prices. But the court said that Congress never granted the power to enforce such a rule.
What?
So here's what the report says. That there's a law in the books now that says you have to put these drug prices on there, but because there's no enforcement recommendations or any sort of enforcement, I guess, part of the law has no way of enforcing the law.
It's a rule. It's not a law. It's a rule. I don't think
it's a rule, but because there's no enforcement of the rule, you don't have to follow the rule. When did this ever happen? The rule's a rule. I mean, you don't need the enforcement part to make it a rule.
This is what the entire Obama administration had rules that were not enforced. Are you kidding me? That's every agency did not enforce the tons. How about immigration on the border? They did not enforce the rules. No, this is very normal.
It's irregular as far as I'm concerned.
I have seen drug prices on some ads, though.
I haven't.
And recently, maybe 3 days ago, and it was. Oh man, I forget what it was. Maybe it was Lexapro. Tina caught it, and it was like $10,000 a month.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. You know, people don't see it. But every drug television ad at the end has in the small print, if you can't afford it, if you don't have insurance, you can call them and they will give you the medication. No. Yes, it is.
They will help you. They're going to help you. They're not going to give you anything.
They do. And I have looked into this, and they wind up giving people the medication. They don't.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they don't do it once in a while.
No, they do it almost all the time. They don't do news stories about it, and it's not something you're supposed to know. But they will not let you die if you can't get their drug for some reason. Now, it doesn't mean you won't die by taking their drug, but that's a different story. But they say, "Oh, we might help." But they will. They will. This is a no agenda tip. Actually, just say you can't afford it. Call them up. If you really can't afford it, they will give it to you.
Well, who can afford a $10,000 a month drug?
Yeah, I can't. I don't think I need it either. I'm just trying to keep my marijuana habit alive. That's
well, talking about that, I think there's a marijuana story in here. A Cannabis Reform Series is a new thing they're doing on PBS. Let's play part of it.
There's been a big shift in the attitudes toward marijuana use in many places around the country. Increasingly, new state laws are following voter attitudes. We are still in the latest wave of legalization of cannabis, one that's not finished yet. And we're going to spend some time this week looking at the many different ways it's affecting individuals, communities, businesses, and state governments. Our series is called The Green Rush, and William Brangham begins with this broader look.
Illinois is now the 11th state, along with Washington, D.C., to legalize recreational marijuana in the U.S. With overwhelming and bipartisan support, the state legislature passed a bill that allows for a regulated recreational market starting next year. Illinois is just the latest state to join the legalization wave that's been sweeping across the country. Colorado and Washington were first back in 2012. Now, nearly 30% of the country live in states where recreational pot is legal. Perhaps it's not a coincidence that public support for legalization has also soared to record levels. A 2018 Gallup poll found 66% of Americans support it. That's up more than 20% from a decade ago and more than 50% since 1969.
There's really two dominant forces affecting public opinion around cannabis legalization.
John Hudak is a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution and author of Marijuana, A Short History.
States and realizing the sky isn't falling. The doomsday predictions of opponents are not really coming true. The other force is generational replacement. The people who oppose cannabis reform are the oldest people in our society.
Okay, I found that to be somewhat insulting.
What? Because of the ageism?
Yes, not only ageism, but I'm a huge proponent of it. Not a pothead by any means. So you can't have to write that part of it off. And I've always been for legalization. I've always thought it was silly that it wasn't legalized. But I guess some other people in my age ilk, were against it all along. And these are probably the same people that don't know how to use a computer. But I digress. We can listen to part 2 if you want.
The marijuana grown and sold today is also far more potent and now far more available than it used to be. And that's raised some public health concerns. Researchers warn of a rise in what's called marijuana use disorder, where chronic use of the drug often negatively impacts a user's life. Some states have also seen an increase in cases of driving under the influence of marijuana. Marijuana-related hospital visits are also up, though most cases involve someone smoking or eating too much, which resolves pretty quickly. In some states that legalized, the number of underage users went up, but in others, it didn't.
What we know is that the legalization of cannabis can have these public health and public safety impacts, but it is not clear that cannabis does cause these effects. And so the best bet that states have is to recognize that these effects are possible and to try to combat them in advance before they become a reality.
Yeah, having some standing in the area. Justin, the drug dealer, who's been with me since I've been in Austin, I think. Yeah, since I've been in Austin. The last delivery, he gets everything from California now, and the actual flower, the actual bud that he gave me was so incredibly potent that I actually was affected, and I can't remember being this affected in 25, maybe even longer, 25, 30 years. I think maybe even more than that. I think the last time I was so affected by that weed was when I was 18. And I had to sit down. And I even said to Tina, I said, I don't know what's going on, but I got to sit down for a second. Way too potent. Everything that's happening in California is now the vape pens. That's a big deal. But now there's the pure THC. Have you heard of this? The pure THC?
Yeah, you can get it.
And it's a
Washington is available too.
And it's a white powder. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I don't know. I've never seen it. I just know about it.
Okay, so there's this the pure THC, and they have some process where they extract it, and it almost looks like cocaine. And that's what people dab. So you put it in on a hot coil basically and smoke it in a vape-like fashion. But this is crazy. The stuff that they're making now, I have to say, and coming from me, that's a big deal. It's like, this is a little too much, and people need to know levels.
It's irresponsible.
It is irresponsible. It's just gone crazy. And I actually, for a moment, thought, oh my God, don't tell me I'm going to scrum it.
Now that would be funny.
No, that would not be funny, because apparently that's horrible. I haven't vomited in 40 years. Can you believe that?
There are some people who have never vomited for some reason.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't vomit. It just doesn't happen. I don't know. I think I have a stomach of iron. Which is,
I think scromiting would really be an embarrassment. Then I probably wouldn't enjoy it.
It would be very, very bad. Can't have any of that. So, yeah, be careful, people. Remember, you can always smoke more, not less. You can always dab more, not less. You can always spray more. By the way, the spray stuff that we got from Jambo Joe, I like that stuff.
Yeah.
The THC spray. That's good stuff. Anyway. I think that definitely needs some guidelines. Right now, it's just Wild West. It's Wild West, but I think guidelines would be good. When a lifelong smoker says, it's getting pretty heavy, it's getting pretty heavy. Now let's talk about the 2020 election, which is still all that is really talked about here in general in the U.S. I'm very happy to hear that CNN is starting to go our way. They are starting to turn these debates into a little bit of a game show. We've got some positive movement. Now there will be colored lights to help the candidates manage their remaining response times. The lights will turn yellow and then to flashing red, and then when their time is out, solid red.
Yeah, when their time is out, they should cut the mic.
They should have the Sandman come out with the hook. A candidate attacked by name by another candidate will be given 30 seconds to respond. That's an interesting. That could be used in interesting ways.
That was the rule before.
Well, here's one that changed, and we know why. There will be no show of hands or one word down the line questions. I guess the Democratic Party thought that they looked pretty foolish when everybody put their hand up and said, sure, free health care for anyone who was here illegally. So that's off. They can't do that anymore. That was
I'm reminded of the one classic example of why that's stupid, and they're still pushing it, which is, well, they're kind of backing off a little bit. But here's the problem. You have free health care for anyone that's in the country. Every person who's dying anywhere in the world can just buy an airplane ticket, fly to the United States without having to crawl over the border or anything else. Now you're here on a visa for a tourist, and you can have your cancer cured. It would turn the entire country into a ward, a hospital ward. It's idiotic to even suggest that you should be able to do this. And that's what they're suggesting.
They're suggesting that that's no longer. Well, yeah,
they're suggesting free healthcare. If you're here, you get the free healthcare. So we don't want a bunch of sick people walking around.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but that invites everybody in the world who's sick, if they can get an airplane ticket to get into our medical system, to have their cured here, I would fly right over here and just get my free everything.
Questions posed by the moderators will appear at the bottom of the screen for television viewers. That's so. Because I guess people are forgetting. What was the question again? And here's a new one: a candidate who consistently interrupts will have his or her time reduced. In the penalty box you go. I don't know how they're going to enforce that. I can just see it. Senator Gillibrand, we're going to have to deduct 30 seconds from your time. You really think that's going to happen?
They're making things too complicated.
I think it's going to be a hoot. I can't wait to see this. Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you, how's that Kamala Biden ticket coming?
Well, he says he's sorry. I'm going to take him at his word. But again, that doesn't address the issue of busing in America. And the fact that he still, we cannot rewrite history about what segregationists were doing at that time on a number of issues, including opposing busing.
So it seems like she's still pretty pissed off at an Uncle Joe there.
All right. Well, I'm not going to change the prediction yet, but I will say it's possible that she has. I'm not the only one who would think like this, so she would have that information herself. That is possible that she would be a vice presidential candidate under Biden because she'd be perfect. She's a mixed race color woman with a woman. It's not a bad idea. And then, of course, then she'd get presidency if he doesn't last through the office. And maybe she doesn't even want to consider something like that. And so she's submarining her own chances.
Well, she's really trying with this.
Because why is she doing this? What is the point? She's not making. Is she getting any more people all on her side because she's slamming poor Uncle Joe?
Maybe.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I can't look in her books. I don't know. I do know that what she's pushing is this no redlining mortgage plan that will help.
Oh, geez, that's a new idea. I've never heard of such a thing.
Well, the problem with this is that she's calling it a plan to help Black America. And there's certain things that are within this document that make it clearly not just about Black America. Yes, that's right. It's time for my weekly ADOS segment. Antonio Moore, who definitely leads a group of Black Americans who do not like Kamala Harris, had this to say.
My family is destroyed as a result of slavery. Kamala's isn't. My family is destroyed as a result of American slavery. Kamala Harris's isn't. Kamala Harris has presented no black agenda. Kamala Harris has presented no black agenda. The housing plan that she submitted, Yvette Carnell will hash it out later on this evening. Tune in. But it's nonsense. It is not focused on black folks. It is focused on white people that will gentrify. She set the income threshold at $100,000. She set the income threshold at $100,000. She's not going to look at wealth that's going to be transferred. So we're not going to do any real work to make sure that white people who come from wealth that are going to inherit wealth, white millennials, are not getting the bulk of this program. We're going to set the threshold so high that they're going to fall into the group and maybe take most of the money. Understand that the middle black family in this nation makes $35,000. How do you set the threshold at $100,000? Because you're not making this program for black folks. How do you get to go on in Essence Festival and say that a program that is not for black folks is a black homeownership racial wealth gap closure? She don't know the numbers. She don't understand the racial wealth gap, and she don't understand ADOS. She doesn't know enough to be having this discussion. Kamala Harris does not have enough policy undergirding to have a discussion about the racial wealth gap. She'll get out there and talk about it and then give a solution that they ain't even for black folks, let alone ADOS folks. I don't know how this woman is running.
I don't know either, Antonio.
Wow, that was a good punchline.
What I found interesting about her plan is she's going to rejigger the way your credit score works, or at least that's in her plan. And what the plan states is if you pay certain bills on time, such as your utility bill, your cable bill, and your I don't know if rent is in there, but certainly utilities is a big one, then your credit score will be positively impacted. And what does that sound like? I will tell you. That is exactly what Credit Karma does. That is exactly what all of these apps that are there to get you into deeper debt, owned by Google, or at least majority shareholder, Credit Karma, Google, they want to know everything about you. They want to be your bank. They are going to bankrupt you. And I guess maybe she's in with them. Maybe this is I think she is the Silicon Valley candidate. Although
she's definitely in the area.
And so this would make sense for her to be pushing something like this, because this would benefit Google directly. They would really be a part of this.
Google would love to have her as president.
Yeah, they would. This would be a good thing for them.
You know that they don't care. They don't want Biden. They would have her.
Yeah. You talked about the borders earlier, and I'm a little surprised you didn't have a clip about this, but I'm happy that I clipped it, because I had one of those moments where I'm like, John will have it. This is a learning moment for everybody. When you think, should I really send that link to Adam and John? And I prefer it if you send it to me or John, not to both of us, because then often it's like same problem. People say, I'm sure someone already sent it to him. Usually they haven't. And I'd rather receive a link 100 times than not receive it. So do not apologize if you feel like, you probably have received this 100 times. No, just keep on sending it. So what I'm referring to is Jeh Johnson on the PBS NewsHour with Judy. Did you see Jeh?
No, I didn't. I would have probably clipped it. You're right.
Jeh Johnson, Jay is his real name. You spell it J-A-J-E-H, fan favorite of the show.
We call him Jeh.
Jeh. We call him Jeh Johnson. He was on with Judy, and it was after
Judy.
Is it Judy? It's Judy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Judy.
Yeah. He was on with Judy, and he had written an op-ed which stirred a lot of people up on the left about the border situation. Now, he ran Department of Homeland Security for 3 years under Obama. And here's what he had to say.
You've talked about, in fact, you wrote an opinion piece over the weekend in which you talked about it's time for straight talk from America's political leaders from both political parties. Yeah. One of the things you refer to was, frankly, what Democratic presidential candidates, some of them, are advocating, and that is either decriminalizing people who cross the border and commit no other crime. In other words, saying it would be okay, it would be legal for them to stay in the United States. You're saying that's not realistic.
Judy, I'm afraid this is getting lost. Most Americans, and I know this from personal experience and from polls, most Americans want an immigration policy that treats people in a fair and humane way, particularly those who have been here for years, who are becoming de facto Americans, integrated members of society. They want to see us take care of the dreamer class, but they also want a secure border. And the other reality is that when we change our policy and we signal to people beyond our borders that effectively our borders are open and that you will not be deported unless you commit a crime, for example. The migrants will hear that message. It will be aggravated and amplified by the smugglers, and instead of $100,000 a month, we'll be dealing with $200,000, $300,000 a month, and these overcrowded conditions will be even worse.
So continue to keep it illegal to cross the border. One quick thing I do want to ask about.
I love how you. Okay, so just continue to keep it illegal. Let me ask you something else. Wrong answer,
Holy mackerel! That's a great clip.
Wrong answer, Johnson. Okay, we'll just continue to keep it illegal. Okay.
Judy's off the rails.
She's all in on open borders and free health care, apparently. The two things that can never go together, as you just posited.
I did. I posited it. Did.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, so Megan Rapinoe, the co-captain of the United States women's national team, soccer.
The American national team, and she hates the country. I do have a clip of this.
Oh, I have a couple clips, but I'm happy.
The soccer team, Megan, complains. Democracy now, of course.
Hold on a second. Yeah. Okay.
In New York City, fans are celebrating the U.S. women's soccer team's historic World Cup victory today with a ticker tape parade. The team won its record fourth World Cup Sunday, its second consecutive win. The games also brought renewed attention to the team's struggle for equal pay. Earlier this year, they sued the U.S. Soccer Federation for gender discrimination. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin introduced a bill Tuesday to withhold federal funding for U.S. participation in the 2026 FIFA World Cup unless the United States Soccer Federation implements equal pay for the women's soccer team. Outspoken co-captain Megan Rapinoe has also made headlines for her comments about Trump during the World Cup, saying, "I'm not going to the effing White House." On CNN Tuesday, Anderson Cooper asked Rapinoe what her message to President Trump is.
Your message is excluding people. You're excluding me. You're excluding people that look like me. You're excluding people of color. You're excluding, Americans that maybe support you. I think that we need to have a reckoning with the message that you have and what you're saying about Make America Great Again. I think that you're harking back to an era that was not great for everyone. It might have been great for a few people, and maybe America is great for a few people right now, but it's not great for enough Americans.
Megan Rapinoe also said the soccer team would be traveling to Washington, D.C. at the invitation of several lawmakers in Congress, but repeated she would not accept an invitation to the White House as she did not want her message or the team's platform to be co-opted.
Well, interesting backgrounder to kind of.
When did she own the team, by the way?
Well, let me talk about this, because I did a little deeper dive than just this report. I won't play her message to President Trump because that was in your report, although I do find it interesting. She says, people that look like me. Now, I'm sorry, Megan, that's for black people. What, that have pink hair? Is that what your problem is? She was just spouting off like a social justice warrior when she said that. And she actually, you know what? I am going to play this. She actually had to think about it. She didn't have an answer that readily available. You listen.
There's a good chance the president is watching this interview or will watch this interview. What is your message to the president?
Oh, message to the president.
See, she wasn't even ready, so she's just going to spout off whatever she knows.
I think that I would say that your message is excluding people. You're excluding me. You're excluding people that look like me.
What is she talking about?
She's gay.
I know that, but her message, she goes on, he's excluding everybody according to her.
Well, let's listen to the rest of it. She said,
what does it mean?
Who fucking cares? Just listen to the goddamn clip for 2 seconds.
Is excluding people.
You don't have to cuss at me.
You're excluding me. You're excluding people.
But you're asking questions like you know the answer. There's nothing there.
No,
it's bullshit. No, you know that she's just, that's what I'm saying. It's just hate. It has nothing to do with anything she means. When she says, you're excluding people who look like me, she now thinks she's black because that's what black people say to Trump. That's my point.
I think that I would say that your message is excluding people. You're excluding me. You're excluding people that look like me. You're excluding people of color. You're excluding, Americans that that maybe support you. I think that we need to have a reckoning with the message that you have and what you're saying about Make America Great Again. I think that you're harking back to an era that was not great for everyone. It might have been great for a few people, and maybe America is great for a few people right now, but it's not great for enough Americans in this world. And I think that we have a responsibility, each and every one of us. You have an incredible responsibility as, the chief of this country, to take care of every single person, and you need to do better for everyone.
So notice what she said. Throughout the entire interview, she's talking about this country, this country, this country.
I would not go, and every teammate that I've talked to explicitly about it would not go.
Everyone that you've talked to?
Everyone that I've talked to, yeah. I don't think anyone on the team has any interest in lending the platform that we've worked so hard to build, and the things that we fight for, and the way that we live our life. I don't think that we want that to be co-opted or corrupted by this administration. I think it's an opportunity for this administration to sort of put us on display as their sort of guests for the day, and I don't think that makes sense for us at all. I can't imagine any one of my teammates would want to be put in that position. There's so many other people. All
right, so she keeps saying this country, this administration, until she starts talking about somebody else.
There's a good chance the president is watching this interview or will watch this interview. What is...
Sorry, that's the wrong one. This is the one that you mean. This one here.
Shout out AOC.
So does that mean, is that an invitation you're taking up? Nancy Pelosi has said, you'd be welcome to a bipartisan congressional thing. Do you plan on going to Washington in one way or another?
Yes, definitely. And I think even just the conversations with the teammates that I've had, I think everyone is interested in going to Washington. I think we've always been interested in going to Washington. This is such a special moment for us, and to be able to sort of leverage this movement and talk about the things that we want to talk about, and to celebrate like this with the leaders of our country is an incredible moment.
And there it is. And that's the problem with these people. If you lose, if your side loses, it's still our country, it's still our people, it's still our president, it's still our leaders. This shit needs to stop. And you can tell by someone's words within 5 minutes what they're all about. And if this country, but when it's something she likes, our country, that's very disingenuous.
Irks me about this is that there's no way there's not one or two normal people on that team that would love to go to the White House, but she's a bully, and she's prevented anybody from speaking up except her.
Correct. Now, I will say, I watched the full interview with her on Anderson Pooper. I watched the full interview with her on Rachel Maddow. I don't dislike her. I think she's good for the sport because you need someone who is a loudmouth, has a great profile. Her stance with her arms wide, one a little bit higher, is iconic, is thought about, is branding. Maybe the Nike people helped her out with that. And by the way, they got a lot of money in this federation. So this is all infighting at the federation level. It's about sponsorships. It's about the money. She's pissed off that they had 3 World Cups all at the same time. She's doing a very good job because you need a loudmouth like a Beckham. You need he used to be a loudmouth. You need loudmouths who are great players to propel the sport forward. So I'm not so much against that. But she's at the end of her career, you see. She's 34. She's almost 35. She only has a few more years to go. She'll do the Olympics. She may not even do the next World Cup. So I don't have that much of a problem with her. I do have a problem with the U.S. Soccer Federation. I mean, this thing, there is so much money in here, and it's every single sports brand. It's Anheuser-Busch. Those are the guys who determine where the money go. So, to make this about equal pay and all that crap is completely outrageous. Here's the ad that Nike ran right after their win.
Champions and keep winning until we not only only become the best female soccer team, but the best soccer team in the world. And that a whole generation of girls and boys will go out and play and say things like, I want to be like Megan Rapinoe when I grow up. And that they'll be inspired to talk and win and stand up for themselves. And I believe that we will make our voices heard. And TV shows will be talking about us every single day and not just once every 4 years. And that women will conquer more than just the soccer field, like breaking every single glass ceiling and having their faces carved on Mount Rushmore. And that we'll keep fighting not just to make history, but to change it forever.
So what she is a spokesperson for social justice and brand identity marketing. That's what this is all about. Everything that comes out of her mouth is all about the brand. And as we know from social media, anything Trump is bad for the brand, can't be a part of it. Look at the logo. She's wearing the Nike logo. And that is what is going on with her. To add to that, there was a big conference recently of advertisers called Ad Colors. And this was about advertising towards people of color. And they brought out Mark Pritchard, the chief brand officer, if you can believe that title, of Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble is a lot of what we call FMCGs, fast-moving consumer goods. What do they have? Tide. What are the big Procter & Gamble brands? John?
Colgate. No, that's Colgate Palmolive. I don't know. Don't keep track of. There's these two giant companies, and Colgate Palmolive and Procter & Gamble.
Okay. Well, they got Listerine, they got Pert Plus, they got Oreo, they got all kinds of stuff. So this guy comes out and he's talking to this crowd.
I don't think they have Oreo.
Oh, there was a troll room comment, so I thought maybe they did. So Mark Pritchard, the chief brand officer, comes out after showing a video of an advertisement which was called The Talk. And the advertisement shows black mothers and fathers talking with their kids, the talk about how you have to be careful when you get pulled over by a cop, how you have to act, that you may have to work twice as hard than white children of the same age. I'm not sure I agree with everything that's in this The Talk commercial. So he comes out of that, and here's kind of his little rap.
You've just seen The Talk, which is brilliant creative work.
Brilliant.
But it was also a moment of truth where we stepped up to take a bold stand. We shined a light on racial bias by focusing on the talk that black parents in America constantly have with their children to help them deal with the everyday prejudice that they'll face. Now, this is a powerful statement, but it was not without controversy. Most of the responses were positive, with one group saying, "That's my life. Thank you for recognizing it." And another group saying, "Wow, I didn't realize that happens. Let's talk about it." But some reactions were negative, denying that the issue exists at all. And a few were very negative, angrily saying, "Why are companies involved in social and political issues? Why don't you just stick to selling products?" Well, we had an answer to that. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? We didn't stop. In fact, we doubled down on both advertising spending and PR. We worked with the ABC hit show Blackish to do an entire episode on The Talk with national advertising. We reinforced the message that this film has an important purpose that is needed today more than ever: to promote conversation. Conversation leads to understanding. Understanding leads to changing attitudes. Attitude change leads to behavior change. And behavior change leads to positive action. We were even asked to consider editing out some of the controversial parts of the ad. But we refused, because that would have denied truth. And just because it's not one person's reality doesn't mean that it's not another person's truth. Now, the heat we faced was a real moment of truth. We read some very angry, harsh, and hateful mail. People within our own company wondered if the fight was worth it. And we had to ask ourselves, do we stand down and avoid controversy? Or do we keep going to speak truth and inspire conversations? We chose to keep going, because there's so much more.
Yeah. And this, by the way, is
so much more that must be done to address bias.
The advertising community congratulating each other. But I know what this is about, and I couldn't figure it out. Why do they keep doing this? Why do brands want to be all social, and what is the point? And after I read this Wall Street Journal article about regulators who are really diving into the way you can advertise on the internet today, particularly Facebook, I think is mentioned the most here, where you can segregate right down to age, race, sexuality, all these different things to target a market, which is, of course, has been called racist. That's racist. So these guys, as he said himself, they're doubling down. Why? Because they want to justify it. They know that if they can find the right product for LGBTQIAPK, that they can sell a shitload of product to that group. But when they do that, they get called out as being, as doing it off the backs of gay people, which they're doing. But now they have this, no. You see, we are speaking up because if we don't do it, who will do it? They are taking themselves above all of this to say it's okay for us to be racist or sexist or ageist when targeting advertising, which, by the way, has been the norm ever since advertising was invented. But because they give all the scrutiny, now they have to turn it into something else. I think it'll backfire, but for now, that's what they're holding to. We have to do it. You people can't do it. We the brands, we understand. We understand the injustice.
Okay.
That's it?
Yeah, I guess.
Nothing to add? Nothing, no comment?
No, not really.
That's disappointing.
I think it is going to backfire, and I don't know how it's going to backfire, but these guys can get themselves out of it.
Well, they can always get themselves out of it. But in the meantime, I think the brands are garnering a lot of power this way. Because, I
don't know. I'm not seeing it.
Well, you agree with me that they're responsible for a lot of the content takedowns.
All the advertisers are.
Yes. Yeah. But mainly the brand advertisers. By the way,
well, the big boys, whether they're
all right. So
I don't know that Procter and Gamble per se as a brand. It's their products like.
Well, no, it's the individual. It's the individual brand. So for instance, they took T-shirts and they printed on the T-shirts slurs against Mexicans and Cubans. Except they didn't print it in ink; they printed it in ketchup. And then they hung them all up in a store. It's all in Spanish, that's why I don't have a clip. And they brought in, the target market. And this is an ad, by the way. They brought in the target market, and they're looking at these like, "Wow, I can't believe this is so disgusting. This is a completely racist T-shirt." And then all of a sudden, they say, "Aha! But we're going to help you remove the labels with Tide." And they pull out the Tide Pod, and of course, it washes the ketchup right out. I mean, that's the kind of shit they're doing now.
I just think of it as pandering.
Yeah. Hey, Twitter is way down, like has a massive problem. Like something that we haven't seen, I think. They may have been hacked, actually, someone said.
Oh, Twitter's down right now, you're saying?
Yeah. But it's been down for a while, and apparently it may not come back very soon.
Well, it doesn't take much if you can get inside these things, to bring the whole thing down. That's the problem with online everything.
I love that. We need more of this to go down. Finally, we'll have some
We don't
normalcy.
need it because you had nothing but an hour's worth of agony this morning, largely because of online.
Well, now you're going to go
to a web browser.
You're going to get all technical on me about that. That's not fair. We love it when someone else has technical problems. We hate it when it happens to us.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
You have a few people to thank. Problem is, I don't know how this happens. But I have a mic stand. It's screwed into a base.
Oh, this is the thing that's falling down again?
Yeah. And it's and I don't move this mic, but it slowly over months and months unscrews itself. And I'm reminded of, if everyone remembers it, when they had a phone with a cord.
It would tangle. You could never get it untangled.
And then somehow you're just picking up the phone, you talk, and then you put it back. You pick up the phone, you talk, and you put it back. But somehow, over months and months, it starts to twist. You're not twisting it. I'm not. Who's twisting it?
Maybe someone comes in when you're not looking. Into your secret studio. By the way, when Twitter's down, a lot of people can't log into other things because they foolishly thought it was a great idea to use their Twitter to log into stuff.
Well, Facebook's worse for that.
They both do it, but apparently the whole authorization system is down.
Yeah, it's probably as microservices architecture.
There it is.
One little system which they didn't really have a workaround for is down, and the whole thing is down because nobody did their job. But Sir Rod did his job, came in with $155.
Sir Atomic Rod Adams, what does he say?
He thinks, thanks for the outstanding performance. Much better and entertaining than the $1 million anchors who you do deconstruct. Well,
we deserve equal pay, he says. Yeah, equal pay. Exactly.
Yeah, equal pay. Kyle Mann in Cincinnati, Ohio is next with $154.48. John Christek, $150. Thank you for your courage. Sir Ever of the Watt, 12345 in Linwood, Michigan. David Oosterbahn. $111.11. He's got a call out.
He's got a birthday on the 11th. He'll be 35, and he wants to call out.
Do we have him on the list?
I'll check, and he wants to call out his younger brother, Finn, as a douchebag. I'll check if we see
Apparently
David.
Been listening for several months, and he says he fears he'll remain a douchebag for some time.
Let me put this. He is not on the list. David Oosterbahn, 35 today. Okay, got it. Thank you for your support, David.
Jonathan Hess, 110.10, throwing in an extra 10. Sir Sean in Mayock, North Carolina, 100. Rob Van Dyke, 100. James Buell, 88.00. Corey Ainsworth in Edgerton, Wisconsin, 8008.
Boop.
Says Adam plays a mean air guitar.
No, that was James.
Oh, James Buell says Adam plays a mean air guitar. He wants some travel karma. We'll give him that at the end. Corey Ainsworth says boob donation for relationship karma.
Okay, we got that coming up for you.
That's new.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander Sulzberger, 8008.
Isn't he a knight by now? I have a feeling.
No, I don't remember. He comes in when he comes in. He comes in.
Let us know, people, because we just can't keep track of all of it.
And it's not. We had systems in place, but it was overwhelmed. Eric Arsjo, 74.
Sweden. He's from Sweden.
Sweden. Sir Steve Taft. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped Terry Wentz at Langley, Washington, $75. And he did send in a card, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice card of train stuff, including some nice train stamps, which came out recently celebrating the 150th anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad. When I saw the stamps for the Transcontinental Railroad, I couldn't help but think of No Agenda and the Foamer. Thanks for the best podcast in the universe.
Are those forever stamps?
Yeah. Oh, they're beautiful if you can find them.
Yeah.
Gold leaf on the stamp.
I went to the post office to send out our thank you cards for people who had either given a gift to the Ronald McDonald House or come from very far. And so the lady at the post office, you want to choose what stamp you want on? I said, yeah. But the ones that go to Europe, you get one. And you can choose the succulent. That's it. It's not a pretty stamp.
That's what we think of Europe.
It's what we think of you, Europe. Here's your succulent.
Sir Steve Taft, a Baron of the Gold Branch Trail, 7373.
And he says
he actually remembered Jay's birthday.
Yes.
He says he's 73 from Steve Taft, Baron of the Gold Branch Trail. Stephen Shevin in Southampton, Massachusetts. Karma for all grandkids, 7011. Matthew Mungan, $69. Brian Pearson, $66.66. B.A. Van Walwick. Oostzaan.
Van Waalwijk in Oostzaan.
Oostzaan.
This is a nice one. Giving this donation as a birthday request for my husband. His birthday is Friday the 12th of July. He really likes listening to the show. He told me to ask for a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
And, if possible, to be put on the birthday calendar. We live in Oostzaan in the Netherlands. You got it, B.A. Done. Thank you for your courage.
Ms. Vanderhoot, meanwhile, 5555. Now you got another birthday. That's probably not listed.
Yes. Yeah, happy birthday to my smoking hot husband, Rob. Yes, I think it is. It's in a lighter color.
Oh, okay. I can't see it on the screen.
Yeah. Yes.
Michael Shambow, 5510. BioLife member Drury, 5444. He's donating for karma. Well, he's not. Somebody is. Michael Shambow. He's donating for karma. No. BioLife is. Okay, I'm getting it. Sorry, I'm confused myself. Sir Woody of the Falls, 5150. Andre Klaus, 50, and he's in the Netherlands.
Hold on a second. BioLife said, I'm donating for karma. I'm playing in the World Series of Poker and need the No Agenda Nation's backing. Well, that's interesting. Well, good luck. We'll send you karma right after this.
We're not going to send him group karma. Send him some real karma right now.
Right away, everybody.
You've got karma.
That's an emergency poker karma.
The following is $50 donors, name and location if possible. Andre Klaus from the Netherlands is number one. Tyler Boyd, Sir Andrew Gardner of one of our favorites.
He said, this is for dancing lessons for Adam. Thank you. I so appreciate that.
Can't hurt. Drew Mochak in El Cerrito, California. Roy Tenhava in Pijnacker, Netherlands. Robert Dacanay in Fairfax, Virginia. Tony Smith in Fort Worth, Texas. Larry Hay in Mooresville, North Carolina. Robert Bruckner. Jonathan Ferris in Liberal, Kansas. Kimberly Redmond in Toronto, Ontario. And last but not least, our buddy Sir Kyle Meyer in Atlanta, Georgia. I want to thank everybody for contributing to the show. 11:54 with 11:55 coming up, which is 33 times 33 plus 33 plus 33.
And it's Mac and Cheese Day. And what was the third thing?
Nude Day.
Nude Day. And thank you to everybody who supported the program. This is our Value for Value Network. We take no ads, no brand safe stuff over here, as you probably noticed. Been a little triggery today based upon the technical issues we had earlier. So no brand advertising. We can be who we are. We can tell you what we think, and we can support people, programs, products, anything we think is actually good. And if we don't like it, we'll slag it off. And that's why you need to support us with your financial donations so that we can keep it running. And also, everyone who came in under $50, either for reasons of anonymity or if you're on one of our many subscriptions, our programs, please check them out. It really helps when donations are low. You can go to
Dvorak.org/NA.
Now let's get some of that karma out of the way here.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs. You've got karma.
No agenda.
That's right, the place where you can go to meet people who you can talk to about anything without getting triggered. There's no triggering at these meetups, and they're happening everywhere around the globe. Could not be happier that this has taken off so well. July 11th, today, in Charleston, South Carolina. Enjoy it, guys. Send pictures. Let us know how it went. Atlanta on the 13th. Then we have the 18th, Southeast London. July 19th, Colorado Springs, Colorado. July 20th, Southwest London and Chicagoland. So two separate meetups. In two different continents, two different countries. July 26th, we have St. Louis, Missouri, and Portland, Oregon. And the 27th of July, Buffalo, New York, and Frisco, Texas. And then the 28th of July, we have Central Florida. And both the Keeper and I are looking forward to possibly a Florida meetup before the end of the year and hopefully a Chicago meetup before the end of the year. So these Chicagoland and Central Florida meetups will be a very good dress rehearsal. And remember to let us know how it went. Send pictures. I didn't see a lot of people posting pictures on Twitter, which they did it on noagendasocial.com, which is great. And maybe we can get some of those on Twitter.
Huh?
What?
No Agenda Socials. Find them there all the time.
Yes. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
It's your birthday on No Agenda.
And here's the birthday list for today. It is the 7th of July, 2019. We say, actually, Rhea Davies says happy birthday to her fiancé, Ben, from Asprey de la Zouche in Leicestershire, UK. He'll be 33 on the 13th. Sir Steve Taft turned 73 today. He still reads the newspaper without his glasses. B.A. van Waalwijk says happy birthday to her husband. Haar lieve man celebrates tomorrow, July 12th. Miss van der Hoot says happy birthday to her smoking hot husband, Rob. David Oosterbaan turns 35 today. And we say happy 25th birthday to Jay Morgan Dvorak and the most beautiful woman in the universe, the keeper, Tina Marie Curry, also celebrating today. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe. And we do not have any title changes, but we do have Jacobina, who is, let me see. I've got a Jacobina sword here. You got one
here
for me?
You go.
Perfect. Jacobina, come on up. Step right up. This is where you need to be. Thank you very much for your support of the best podcast in the universe. Not only were you the only, not the only, but a executive producer on the show today, you also entered the round table of the No Agenda Knights and Dames, and I am very proud to pronounce the KP with the following title: Dame of the Doomsday Deniers. For you, we've got Boshabola, Cookies and Vodka. We got Cooper's Pale Ale and Kanga Bangers. We got Dame Elisa's Limoncello and Salmon. We've got Redheads and Ryes, Rubenesque Women and Rosé, Hookers and Blow, Rent Boys and Chardonnay, Bong Hits and Bourbon, Sparkling Cider and Escorts, Ginger Ale and Gerbils, Breast Milk and Pablum, or maybe just some mutton and mead. Everyone seems to love it here at the round table. Dame... I call it the right name. Dame Jacobina. We say Dame the Doomsday Denier. Thank you very much. Lady Jacobina, we'll call her now. Welcome to the round table. And once you get your ring, which you can go give Eric the Shill all your details at noagendanation.com/rings. Once you get it, along with the sealing wax, because it is a signet ring, and with your certificate, just tweet out a picture or put it on noagendasocial.com. It's also fun. And thank you all for supporting the No Agenda Show. Dvorak.org/NA.
So we have two controversies: the UK ambassador and Trump and Twitter. I got this Trump and Twitter rundown, which I have some thoughts on.
Okay, let's have a listen.
Trump is violating the Constitution when he blocks his critics on Twitter. Jamil Jaffer of Columbia University's Knight First Amendment Institute, which filed the lawsuit, said, quote, public officials' social media accounts are now among the most significant forums for discussion of government policy. This decision will ensure that people aren't excluded from these forums simply because of their viewpoints and that public officials aren't insulated from their constituents' criticism. It will help ensure the integrity and vitality of digital spaces that are increasingly important to our democracy, Jamil Jaffer said.
Okay.
Well, hopefully he knows he can mute people. Because there's no discussion going on. Unfortunately, I can't go on Twitter because something is technically wrong.
Yeah, these guys are in trouble. I would love
just to read some of the tweets that he has to put up with. These are not discussions. You're a moron. You're a moron. The Rob Reiner type of thing. I mean, this is nonsense. He should be able to block whoever he wants.
And it's not like you can't log out and then look at it anyway. I think even, doesn't Twitter, or when they were working?
This is true.
Back in the day when Twitter was working, you could click on this tweet is from someone who you've blocked. Oh, no, that's the other way around. I'm sorry. That wouldn't work that way.
No, but you're right. If you're blocked, you can just go on Twitter and go to their thing by unlogging.
Yeah.
So it's not as though you can't get to the tweets.
Right.
So this is bull crap. This is just another thing just to harass the president of the United States. Okay, well you want to do
and you know what he did? He brought down Twitter. He said, hey, bite me. That's what he did right there. Go Trump.
He should just keep blocking people.
And keep bringing Twitter down. It's hilarious. And this is on Social Media Day, by the way. Trump has it's social media conference or something of which he hasn't invited any social media companies. And
I have no knowledge of this.
Oh yeah. So I think he. Let me see. Social Media Day, White House. I know he invited like the graphics guy. Let me see. Who does it say who's invited here? Ben Garrison, fringe conservative cartoonist. Who else is invited? Charlie Kirk. Carpedonctum.
Charlie Kirk.
Yes, let me see. Is anyone else here? I don't know. Troll Room, maybe you can help me out with some other people there. So I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but
he's just having a party.
Yeah, and then he probably went, hey, watch this. And then he brought Twitter down. Oh, crap, it just came back. Oh, we're having trouble loading your timeline. Oh. Ooh, these guys are... You thought I get pissed off when shit doesn't work on the show? These guys, someone must be banging their head right now. This is not good.
No, yeah, that's money lost.
Yes, every second they're down, they're losing money. Okay.
Well, so let's just talk about the ambassador situation, which is kind of funny on the other hand. So I kind of did a little dive into it. I couldn't get anywhere, but let's play UK Ambassador DN. This is the Democracy Now! Report.
Britain's ambassador to the United States, Kim Darroch, resigned today following the fallout from leaked cables in which he called Trump inept, insecure, and incompetent. In cables going back as far as 2017, Darroch questioned whether the Trump administration will ever look competent. He also said Trump's presidency could crash and burn and voiced fears that he may launch an attack on Iran. On Tuesday, Trump continued to lash out at Darroch, tweeting, "The wacky ambassador that the UK foisted upon the United States is not someone we are thrilled with, a very stupid guy," Trump said. He also called outgoing Prime Minister Theresa May foolish and blamed her for creating a mess of Brexit.
So in that report, it says that he's bitched about Trump since going back to 2017. So I found a clip of him in 2017. At some meeting talking about the Trump administration in a public forum, and I want to play it. And I don't know. I don't know what this guy must be two-faced, or he's just a nice guy in public and he hates people in private. You know, I have no idea. But this is what he thinks of the administration, supposedly when he was still writing bad memos.
Mr. Ambassador, Ann Guerin with the Washington Post. Could you expand a little bit, please, on something you said?
2017.
Yes, that's what I'm playing. UK Ambassador 2017. Actually, it's UK Ambassador 2017. Is that the one? And
that's the way it starts?
Mr. Ambassador.
Oh, yeah, no, this is okay. Let me preface it. This is a question from the Washington Post. Okay, go.
Mr. Ambassador, Ann Guerin with the Washington Post. Could you expand a little bit, please, on something you said a few answers ago about your government's dealings with the new administration and how you're finding the flow of information? There's been a lot written about nobody home at the State Department and difficulty getting people confirmed at the higher and mid levels. Are you finding any problem getting your own questions answered, getting in to see the people you need to see? And then just a moment ago you mentioned Tillerson at NATO. How do you assess he was going to go, then he wasn't going to go, then he was going to go again to the rescheduled meeting? Were you surprised by that? What would your advice be?
On your first question, the frank and straightforward short answer is no, we're not experiencing problems. Indeed, the contrary. The Prime Minister was lucky enough to get into, wasn't luck, she was invited to see the new president within a week of inauguration, 27th of January, which was actually historically early for a British Prime Minister to get in. We checked the records back, so we couldn't have had a warmer or more gracious welcome or got in sooner, we felt. Foreign Secretary was over, as I say, last week, and in one day, a day also when I think there was something going on healthcare. I don't follow these things, obviously, but it was obviously quite a busy day for the administration. Nevertheless, he got to see, basically in the course of a day, Vice President Pence, Secretary of State Tillerson, and National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, which I think is pretty good of an administration to be that accessible on such an exceptionally sort of pressured day in the domestic, kind of legislative calendar.
Well, this guy should be fired for being boring.
Oh, I couldn't. I knew I could get some clip off of this, but this boring is is not even close to describing it.
So what's up with this guy?
I don't see he's like thinking he's singing their praises, I guess, and then in the back, the guys are a bunch of a-holes. I don't know. I find people like this to be reprehensible.
Well, that's what everybody does. We've read the U.S. diplomatic cables on WikiLeaks. They're all, they're up there with the Epstein people. They all think they're better than you.
So here's this is a clip. I didn't want to play the Veritas thing with a guy who talks like this, or I don't like the way they're doing these voices, but I did like this document read about Google. Google's really, this whole area, it's not anything that you can blame on tech or anything. It's really the Bay Area.
I'm missing some information. You're talking about are you talking about the whistleblower, the Google whistleblower from Veritas?
Yeah, but they read this document, just fun Google document. Then we can talk.
This is new. Seconds. Okay, it's new. All right.
Please join Google to remove ads from Breitbart.com. It is dated March 23rd, 2017. Quote, I'm sure most of you are aware of the extreme sexism that articles and comments on Breitbart disseminates. For this and many other reasons, my colleagues and I have drafted an internal letter to leadership asking them to end Google's business relationship with Breitbart. 1,186 Googlers have co-signed the letter.
Okay.
So I was listening to this, and then I heard that whistleblower guy, which I'm not taping him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, what is wrong with these people? I mean, do they know anything about the internet? Are they too young to remember the good old days? Or, there's a sexist comment on Breitbart. There's sexist comments everywhere if you leave the comment channel open.
Yeah, but that's not what this is about.
I mean, come on.
You know what this is about.
But these guys are just upset about everything. Hillary.
It's about deplatforming. It's about this is Media Matters, Sleeping Giants. By the way, one of our producers took that whistleblower with the phony baloney voice, and it wasn't even. I thought it was a vocoder, which is it's a way of digitizing a voice so you can make it sound very, very different. But they just spun it down 5%. He spun it up for us. It's just some millennial guy. Facts that you can interpret any way you. Let me see. That's it.
So the things that changed was that the TJFs, they started.
For some reason, this is just one channel only. I know you're hearing it, but I don't think the stream hears it. But it's just a regular millennial kid.
At YouTube, they had the same talks by the CEO, Susan, and
this is so poorly done that I think I'm doubting this even more now. This whistleblower. And if you want to be kept confidential, all they did is just spin your voice down 5%. You can hear exactly who he is when you spin it up 5%. What kind of whistleblower is that, or what kind of protection is Veritas giving him?
Well, that's pretty lame.
It's extremely lame.
Huh.
Yeah, but this is just more of the same. Just it's a fight. It's an ongoing fight to remove people. Bitcoin has been doing has had interesting moves whenever, and this is the way I've been tracking it. Whenever there's talk of the Federal Reserve, maybe we won't cut rates, maybe it'll be less than you expected. Boom, the thing goes up. It was up to over 13,000 yesterday. This morning, the Fed notes were, I guess, what they call dovish, which means we probably might cut that right anyway. Boom, Bitcoin goes down. So it seems that at least at these levels, it may be a hedge for some investors. Like, okay, if the interest rates are going to go up, we're going to put it into Bitcoin because at least that has a set interest rate schedule. This is disturbing the elites in the banking community. On deck to become the new head of the European Central Bank is Fifi Lagarde, also known as Madame Christine Lagarde, currently still of the International Monetary Fund. And she was asked about it, about Well, she was asked about cryptocurrencies, and notice she won't mention Bitcoin by name.
One of the main topics up there was cryptocurrencies and all sorts of companies now getting into this effort, not least among them Facebook. What kind of threat does this pose to the traditional banking system?
Well, I think it's, you have incumbents, the banks, commercial banks, and you have the disruptors. And clearly the disruptors are having an impact on the incumbents. We just heard a very large systemic bank here saying that they're launching their digital coin, currently piloted in a way within the institutional clients, but to be scaled beyond that. We heard from the European Central Bank that they have launched in November something that is called TIPS, that enables all the banks in the Eurozone to actually transfer instantly at virtually no cost money between them. So I think the role of the disruptors and anything that is using distributed ledger technology, whether you call it crypto assets, currencies or whatever, and it's far from the bitcoins that we used to talk about a year ago, that is clearly shaking the system. The voice that we heard, which was, I thought, really interesting, were those of the regulators and central bank governors who said, well, yes, this is good and this is helpful and it is changing the business model of commercial banks. But we have to be mindful of two things: trust and stability of the system. And we are equally concerned, we at the IMF, about stability. We don't want innovation that would shake the system so much that we would lose the stability that is needed.
And are regulators doing enough right now to ensure that stability and as well competition from some of these big tech companies being involved in this space?
You know, I think they're mindful of wherever the competition is coming from. The central bank governor of Kenya was explaining to us that they gave a banking license to a telecom company. And I think in the future, we have to look at what lots of data collectors and movers are going to do and whether they're going to move into the banking space forcefully, in which case they will have to be regulated. They will have to be held accountable so that they can be fully trusted.
There you go. Looks like the lines are being marked. Facebook, we're going to have to regulate you. The banks are going to do complete cashless society. This is a little irritating. Yeah, this Bitcoins thing, those are disruptors. I think they're a little worried about this, especially since the Iranian special purpose vehicle Instex that was supposed to enable European countries to trade or to purchase oil from Iran. Well, Iran's like, yeah, this is really great, but if you guys don't have any credit behind it, if it's just some stupid mechanism, we're not going to do that. We're not going to trust you like that. So this thing is now off the table. They can't get it up and running because they won't put any money behind it.
Well, they're asking for trouble if they do anything.
True. We do not give stock advice on this show. That's not what we do. But it was interesting that we were talking about Snap about a week ago because we heard some executives in Cannes talking about how they thought it was a good competitor to Facebook and Google and Twitter, and they were putting money into it. Well, that stock kind of took off, interestingly.
Yeah.
And again,
you read between the lines.
Yeah, so it's all just to show you how valuable our show can be to people who understand information. Here's something else that I just thought was interesting. This is in southern Utah.
All right, so this is out right here. There's a bag on it. This one's out also in Beaver, Utah.
Bag in this one?
And this guy is LB.
He's the owner of the property.
You own it all. So is Tesla telling you to put the bags on here?
No, but they haven't paid me rent since November of last year.
This guy is putting big burlap bags over the superchargers on his property.
Holy moly.
They're supposed to be paying me rent for each charging station. They have paid me nothing. So They will not answer my email. They won't answer my phone calls. They will do nothing. So therefore, nobody's charging on them until they start paying me what they owe me.
So I'm charging on that one over there. You're going to bag those ones up soon too?
I will eventually.
Okay, all right.
What's the supercharger?
I'm sorry?
Oh, the supercharger for the Tesla?
Yeah, the charging. So this guy has all these charging stations on his property, and they just don't pay him rent? That's odd. That's like the one thing you really need to have kind of functioning for people to believe in your idea. and this guy's shutting him down.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story.
Maybe something you talk to Horowitz about. I don't know.
Well, it could be just a fluke. Maybe somebody got fired. Who knows?
Anything's possible. Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, ends our deconstruction for today. Remember, we do have another show coming up on Sunday. Dvorak.org/NA is where you can support us. And please pass on congratulations to J. Morgan Dvorak, John, your daughter, on her birthday. She's celebrating with you, or is she in Washington? Where is she?
She's going to go out to dinner. She's down here.
Okay, good.
She's going out to dinner with her fiancé tonight to a famous little local place. Yeah. And everyone's down here for a birthday party tomorrow.
Oh, well, that's interesting. We also have Tina's birthday party tomorrow, as today is her birthday.
Yeah, Friday, it's easier.
Much easier. And really, it's our fault because it's a show day. And coming to you from the frontier of Texas, it's FEMA region number 6 in the governmental maps. We are the capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Sunday right here with another episode of No Agenda. Please join us, and until then, adios, mobos, and such.
But, he's a dud. He's got nowhere. Now he's just kind of like stoned. Wow. Stoned.
What would you do if you were elected? About Aleppo. And what is Aleppo? You're kidding. No. Aleppo is in Syria. It's the epicenter of the refugee crisis. Okay, got it.
So what you get out the break?
And what is Aleppo?
Stoned.
Okay, got it.
So what you get out the break?
Stoned.
And what is Aleppo? Okay, got it.
Stoned. Wow. But, he's a dud. Yeah. He's got nowhere. He's just kind of like stoned.
A day without a woman. We walked out to say enough is enough.
Resist. The man is not trustworthy. He makes promises. As a matter of fact, I wonder sometimes if he's not taking his cues from Putin.
A day without a woman. We walked out to say enough is enough.
Resist. And the wall that he was going to build, the big, beautiful wall.
We walked out to say enough is enough.
Resist.
A day without a woman.
The man is not trustworthy. He makes promises. As a matter of fact, I wonder sometimes if he's not taking his cues from Putin.
We walked out to say enough is enough.
Resist. While Putin is continuing to advance into Korea.
A day without a woman. We walked out to say enough is enough.
Resist, we much.
The best podcast in the universe.
Mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
I'm an extremely stable genius.